Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for so their fathers did to the false prophets. Luke 6:26. Let me start this feature by making an equally tasteless and tedious joke, followed by nothing less than the offense of the gospel. Some biblical scholars claim that the very grave sin, Genesis 18:20, for which God destroyed the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, was not that the evil and very sinful, Genesis 13:13, men of that city engaged in homosexuality and adultery, Jeremiah 23:14, but because they were unwelcoming to the two angels that visited the cities, Ezekiel 16:49 and 50, which would mark inhospitality as a most grave sin. Well, by that logic, if one act is righteous, making the other one wrong, homosexuality must be sin, because Man Parrish was extraordinarily hospitable to me throughout the interview, as you will witness forthwith. In reality, the men of Sodom and Gomorrah were both homosexual and unwelcoming. If you can swallow that pill, know that I am a Christian and believe the only way to heaven is through faith in Christ Jesus, who is God, as your Savior from your sin. Romans 10:10 says, "For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved." Look up the Romans road. So long as you are on the green side of the dirt, you can yet turn to Christ. Every saint has a bad past as a sinner. Some sinners have a good future as saints. I hope I can help advance Mr. Parrish with this interview, because I am the least of these, and he treated me like a king. I am nobody. Whoever heard of me? And he gave me the time of day, and most generously so. I did my best, res ipsa loquitur, for my myriad technical issues. I tried to embroider the video with hundreds of cutaways, none of which I own the rights to, but I hope under fair use they're being referred to as they're being shown. And despite any issue that you'll see in the, I'm Johnny two times, I there was a bit of an echo on my channel for a lot of the interview. Man Parrish patiently sat down and guided me and produced his own interview in real time from a couple thousand miles away over video chat. I had 10 pages of notes, which I barely exhausted, because Man's answers and original ideas were better than my own questions. Man knows many things that I do not know, and I suspect it may be years before I understand some of what he told me. Top-shelf programs and institutions would do themselves a favor to book Man Parrish, because he is like Dick Cavett or Tony Randall. He interviews himself and holds court with ease, no matter the context. Man Parrish has a real-life New York accent, and I love the rhythm of his speech. This man is deeply brilliant. Please support Man Parrish. My name is Ryan Ellis. Thank you for tuning in, and there may be several things listed as the legacy in remembrance of Man Parrish's life and works. And let me just add, and probably not as the first nor the last person to say this, the fact that Man is very, very kind and very, very generous, on top of being a legend in many senses of the word. I hope you enjoy this interview. Please pray for me. I will pray for you, and I'll pray for America. Thank you very much for watching. Would you look who's on the screen? Here's a man for you. All man and a yard wide. People today would not be able to make records like they do if Man Parrish did not pioneer music like he did. A guy picks up a lot of bad habits living around elite artists of his era, such as becoming a trailblazing legend himself. Anytime you'll hear this man not called an icon, there will be green grass up the middle
They
of
should
the
be
Broadway.
punished and sent to jail.
That's right.
To a gulag.
What's that? A penal colony.
Gulag.
Yes.
Right alongside Alexandra Solzhenitsyn and Ivan Denisovich. With gratitude and admiration that warms my heart, allow me the pleasure to present to you good folks watching at home, Mr. Man Parrish. Hey, people.
How you doing?
Dude, fine. Honored to talk with you today. So many questions, and
I'm gonna get them answered.
yes, and just all over the place. Almost you'd consider an extended lightning round.
I got a big forehead. I gotta do something here. Wait,
No, you look good. You look good.
For 67, I look great.
You don't look. You look 47. You look amazing.
It's a gay 67, not a straight 67. I don't have half the problems.
But okay. So wait,
I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is.
You're gay!
You're in Florida.
How you stay out of the sun? How do you not?
I actually had skin cancer twice, so I kind of don't go. See, all right. I used to live in New York, so in the middle of the winter, you don't go outside. It's too cold when you're up north, and it's just flipped over reverse here. You don't go out in the middle of July and August because it's not that even it's too hot. It's just you kind of stay out of the sun because it's real hard. So you go from your car to an air-conditioned whatever. Just like if you were going to go buy groceries or go to a Walmart, you jump out of your car, you freeze for a second, you run into the store, back to your car, back into your house. It's the same thing in reverse, but it's warm instead of cold. And I've been in a t-shirt and shorts for 10 years now, and I haven't had long pants on other than when I go up and I do events outside of New York. Outside of Florida.
Is it true they say it takes 2 years for your blood to adjust to the temperature of a location?
It's weird. Okay, that's really funny. So my friend is in North Carolina. He keeps his air conditioner at 68. My friend's up in New York around 70. I used to get my air conditioner at 76, and then I started getting cold. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Your blood does change. Most people that come down and visit are miserable for the first week or two or something. It's too hot. It's too uncomfortable and all that. So they're, I said just give it a little bit of time. You'll be able to adjust, and then you do.
Right. So if Sam Jackson was cool enough to quote, I think Ezekiel in Pulp Fiction, I'm going to quote Obadiah 1:4. Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. What was the greatest fall from a pinnacle of success that you ever witnessed? Who did you ever see or know that was the most humbled from their former heights?
Good question. Well, let me put it this way. If you ever wondered whatever happened to, it's usually because they got screwed over by the music business. It's a really shady, dirty business run by mafia, run by wannabe musicians that are executives, that want to be rock stars but never make it, so they want to make decisions for you because they think they know it's the best.
Amen.
And the biggest problem in the music business is a business. And most people don't learn the business side of the music business. So when artists sign record deals or have management, they kind of get screwed because they don't understand the business side, which is publishing and record release and royalties and that sort of stuff. And I learned the hard way. I sold 80 million records at $1 a record. It could have been $80 million, and there's an Italian expression for anybody who's Italian, un cazzo and ghoul, which means your dick and all you got is dick and ass. You didn't get anything. You got nothing. I got un cazzo and ghoul from the music business. I got a lot of fame and a lot of recognition and a lot of props, but I didn't get a lot of cash. And it isn't until I pulled my own publishing together, until I started my own little record label and released my own stuff, that I now have control. If I sign to a record label, people don't know this. So say a record is $10. So I sign to a record label, the record label gives me $1, keeps $9. Some of that's manufacturing, but in the digital age with MP3, there's no manufacturing. They still keep 90%. If you're Michael Jackson, you may be able to keep 20%, maybe 20, maybe 25. The record company keeps the rest. For what? In the digital age?
Right.
I release the CD Baby, and I'm around the world in 3 or 4 days to millions of people. So people don't realize the business side of it. And if there's anybody out there doing music, even, I hate the word beats, but if you're doing beats at home or remixes and you have the permission to release it, go release it yourself. Don't look for record labels. If you're an artist, CD Baby and Bandcamp are two great places for people to release their own music.
Amen.
You know, and then you control it.
Yes.
And I've had people come to me, can we license it for this movie? Can we license it for an HBO series? And so on and so on. So the falling from grace, a lot of people have careers and then no career lasts forever, or they get ripped off and it crashes, and then they just wither away because their dream in life is crushed. I had to pick myself up and go, I'm not letting these people stop me. I'm doing music because I need to do music, not because a manager or a record company is giving me permission to be an artist and validation. So I've seen a lot of people crash hard, and the ones that survive are the ones that pick themselves up by the bootstraps, get out of that, and release their own material. It's changed. You know, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you needed a record label, and then Napster changed everything with digital downloads.
Amen.
And then basically what happened is record companies would pay you that 10%.
Right.
And streaming stuff, which didn't happen, was radio. And you get paid about 5 cents every time, 4 or 5 cents every time you got played on the radio. Well, when that all record companies crashed and burned because everybody was downloading, they all got together and they said, we need to make money. We have this big building and we have offices around the world. How do we do this? They all sat in a room with a lawyer and they said, we're going to start streaming and making streaming legal. Okay, my God, we're using other people's music. What do we pay them?
Right.
And the lawyer said, well, whatever the industry standard is. And they said, what's the industry standard? And the lawyer said, you guys are the industry, so let's make up the standard. And they said, well, we used to pay him 5 cents every time it gets played. What about 2 cents? And the lawyer said, go lower. How about a penny? Go lower. Wait a minute, less than a penny? You're the industry standard. You make it up, so when somebody sues you and they go to court, you can say, this is the industry standard. So it wound up at 0.003 cents every time something is played on Spotify or Apple or whatever. So you have 1 million records. I can't do the math on it, but you get a very small check for $1,000 instead of, tens of thousands or $100,000. So, and the same thing with sales. They're selling digital copies of albums for $10, and you get 90. You get for $1, you get 30 cents or 40 cents. And if you're at a record company, you get 10% of that 40 cents, so you get 4 cents. Right? So you wonder why artists charge $5,000 to set up in the front row, because it's the only way they could make money.
Right.
I think one of the last or near last concerts that Prince did, he gave away the record because he charged enough at the door that it covered the album, and he gave, I think it was CDs. He was giving away CDs. Vinyl's very cool and hip now, but you can't even press vinyl records because there's 5,000 to 10,000 minimal copies. In my day, I sold millions of vinyl. Now you're lucky if you sell 20,000. I mean, as a major artist, it's a big deal.
Do they cut in on merch now more than before? Or?
Yeah, it's more of a merch thing. Actually, there's places now that do. I know Boy George, and he's releasing it on demand. I know Fred Schneider from the B-52s. They release their vinyl on demand. And there's a couple of places now. I forgot what it's called, but you can search for it. You do the artwork, you upload the stuff, they take the cost out, and then they send you the difference. But vinyl now, instead of being, $4 for a 12-inch and $9.95 for an album, is now like $45. So you can.
If you go and play music, do you make your money on ticket sales and merch?
Yeah. Just if you have somebody that can sit behind the table and do merch, yeah, but you got to pay them and take them on the road with you. In addition to the merch, you have to pre-make the merch, unless like now they can scan their iPhone and it's on demand, and they can send it. There'd be somebody there with a couple of samples. You could try it on, scan it with your iPhone, and it'll show up at your door a few days later.
That's crazy.
Well, if you don't know this as a musician,
right. Yeah.
But to go on the road isn't that? I'd love to go on the road. I mean, I'm a studio musician with gear, but I could do a multimedia show with video and walls and lights and smoke machines, which I used to do back in the '80s. But to go on the road, a theater is not going to say, well, come in, and if you sell tickets, we'll give you the door and we'll pay your electric. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work like that. You have to carefully figure out if you're going in a bus or whatever, or a plane. If you're going to be in Dallas, you have to do these amount of things. If you're going to be in California, you have to do that. If you're going to be in the Northwest, you have to do that. So you have to pay for the hotels, you have to pay for the transportation, you have to pay for the theater, which includes the ushers and the ticket salesperson and the electric bill. Hopefully it's usually a flat rate. Here's each theater $10,000-$20,000 you got to pay for that night, and hopefully you make it back up in ticket sales.
And so insurance as well.
I mean, there's places like Live Nation. If they believe in you, they'll pay for it, but of course they'll take half of what you make. So here you are again, And so I'm very into. I'm 67 years old, but I have about 7 VR headsets, and they're starting to experiment with VR and 3D and concerts and stuff. And I could basically set up my garage with a green screen and record a whole show and have it download in 2D, or if you have a VR headset in 3D where you're on the stage and you could move around the stage and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure you just heard Sam Altman just bought or hired Johnny Ives, the Apple guy.
Yeah.
And that, what is it? Was it Apple? No. It was Bezos, I think. One of those two offered OpenAI, which Altman's company, employees $100 million signing bonus aside from their thing, and no one's taken the offer so far. But they're throwing down serious.
Signing up to what? To artists?
To employees of OpenAI, $100 million. I'm not sure if that's maybe in total or for.
It's probably Meta. I mean, Apple's got a problem with.
You're probably right. Meta. I think that's right.
I have Apple Vision Pro. $4,500. It's a beautiful movie theater. It doesn't do VR. The $300-$400 Meta Quest does almost the same thing at a slightly less quality, and does VR and AR. Right. Man. So. Entertainment is moving into that. I have I have a server at home with a bunch of movies on it, and there's now Apple Vision apps that'll turn any 2D movie into a 3D movie. So I watched Alfred Hitchcock's The Bird in 3D. It was like, wow, this is so fucked up and great all at the same time. But it's just showing that that's where entertainment is going.
Yes.
You don't have to go to a stadium or something like that anymore. They're dabbling with it. There are a couple of companies that I think Meta and Apple bought them, where they set up multiple GoPro cameras, and then it gets processed through a processor. You put your headphones on, and you can either be right at the microphone, like right here while someone's singing, or you could be looking over the drummer, or you could be out in the audience or in a balcony looking down, which the user could, it's multiple feeds, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose that, or they make it into a complete 3D space where you can freely move around it, but they're either live or pre-taped shows. A lot of people are streaming some of their shows now. Just set up a couple of GoPros, and there's a switcher. You send the feed out to what they call a reflector server, and then if you log in, you can choose any of the feeds, either with your mouse pointer or with your pinching or whatever you're using, and see that. It's the beginnings of it, and if that happens, that opens up a world, because not only do you not have to go on tour, but you can create your multimedia, and it's there forever. So it's constant income. If you can't see it today, but you see it next month, it's still there, and it's still the same quality. It's almost like putting a record up for sale. It's always there, and people can grab it when they want it. Performance is going there, definitely going there.
Yeah, I hear that Altman and Ives, within 5 years, they're projecting it's probably going to be some form of glasses. They're trying to replace the cell phone with a new.
Well, they have it already. I mean, Google. I mean, I follow this closely. Google has what's it, Gemini? Or not Gemini's the AI. They have it. My Apple Vision Pro is pretty cool. I have the what do you call it? One not the Rogue Kid. The other ones. There's a lot. There's a lot.
So it's my personal theory, barring hard work or pure talent, the best people to do a thing are the ones, or descendants of the ones that invented those things. being that you're a pioneer in music, do you understand how to express yourself through your music better than others that have later copied or been inspired by your style? Are you more dialed into what you're about?
Here's the thing. I can't read or write music.
Wow.
I got a publisher, and my publisher said, sort of, you interview a publisher, and she knew who I was, but she said, how many records do you think you have? I said, I think I have about 20, 25 songs out there, maybe 5 or 7 albums. She goes, give me 6 months to look around the world and see what you did. She calls me back, and she's, Manny, are you sitting down? And I said, yes. She does. You have like 280 tracks and 27 albums, which is like, that's like Rolling Stones kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? So I do music by ear. Everybody knows me for dance music, but I do classical music, I do new age music, I've done film scores, and in fact, I'm the only musician in the Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection with my music on a film score. The curator told me he couldn't get me in as a musician, but since I did soundtracks, they put the movie in there, but they did it because of me. And I was like, wow, thank you. So I've reached heights. I've done things. I worked with Boy George, Michael Jackson, Gloria Gaynor, Roberta Flack. I managed the Village People for 6 years over in Europe. 80s groups like Steve Strange, Bassage, Bronski Beat. My man-to-man group, we were all around the world, number one except for America.
Very big deal in America.
A lot of people, I can go on and on and on. But I do my thing, whatever that thing is, and people say I have a sound. I don't know what my sound is because I'm on the inside looking out. Here's the thing. 2 people that do music, 2 artists, let's do it as painters. You can give 2 artists blue paint and a paintbrush and a blank canvas. They're going to be completely different, right? So what I do is obviously different enough that people are paying attention to me. What that is, I don't know.
Interesting.
Right? So I have friends that have degrees. I know one who has a doctorate degree in music. And I'm like, wow, can you come play on some of my stuff? He goes, if it's not written in sheet music, I can't play it. I'm like, what? Well, can I hear your music? Oh, I don't write music if it's not available on a sheet. I said, so you're a technician? He goes, well, kind of, yeah. And I'm like, don't you have any aspirations to write a symphony? No. So I was never locked into, I'm known for original, well, let's go back. Hip hop was not what you think it is today. Hip hop was dance music or electro dance music in the 80s because there's a jazz term, your hips were hopping. Right? Wow. And then there was rap and rhyme, right? And rap was like Rapper's Delight, which they did over disco music. But when this new sound came out, it was urban and everybody wanted to be part of it. I was told, with Michael Jackson, I did a remix, and he had a fight with Quincy Jones because he didn't want to use horns and traditional bass and stuff. Synthesizers were basically guitars for solos. Yeah. But I was doing, me and Kraftwerk were doing complete tracks with only synthesizers, so it was a sound that people didn't hear, other than people like Jean-Michel Jarre, which were doing trippier head music, and Vangelis, who I got to hang out with for 2 weeks in Greece, amazing guy, were doing all synthesizer, but we were rare. But I turned it into pop music, when Prince died, somebody said, oh, I used to work for Prince, he loved your music. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then he showed me pictures of him in Paisley Park, mixing and hanging out with Prince. I said, why would Prince, or for that matter, Michael Jackson, be even interested in my music? Is because they want to stay relevant. They want to stay, it's important. They wanted to know what's going on the street. And I did a remix of Speed Demon for Michael Jackson off the Bad album because he wanted to get away from Quincy Jones's, was jazz. Quincy Jones's background was jazz. So his instruments were horns and guitar and keyboards and stuff, and drums, traditional, which is cool. I mean, I love his production work. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But Michael Jackson wanted to be street and relevant because he knew that's where the future was. So a lot of what I did laid a foundation down for what you even hear now, 808 drum machines, loops. And I did this all before computers, musical instrument digital interface, which is MIDI, and samples. We had to lay stuff down by hand. So my first album was all done by hand. So What's the difference between a good musician and a bad musician? You're in your groove or you're not. And all the education in the world doesn't make a difference. And I don't approach music by music. I approach it by sound. I'm more interested in creating sounds and textures. If you put on headphones, my stuff is moving around front to back, side to side. The sounds happen to be musical notes that fall into rhythms, but I'm more interested in the texture of the sound, and that texture and this and that all blend together so it makes a song so you could listen to. But if songs weren't around, I would be doing ambient texture things because it's the sound that turns me on, not the musical notes. But I know I have to deliver it in a musical medium for people to understand it.
Are you dual hemisphere, left brain and right brain?
Well, it's funny because somebody helped me write my I have a book. I have Man Parrish Stories, STORIES on YouTube. Write it down. I have 45-minute little crazy stories. I performed at Studio 54. Madonna was my open act. I was a male prostitute for 10 minutes. It's funny. I was a drug mule for the mafia. What? Andy Warhol changed my name from Manny to Man Parrish. You know, crazy shit that most people shouldn't have happened in their life, right?
Right.
I just lost my train of thought. Back me up. What was I talking about? Okay, I forgot it. Dual hemisphere. So she helped me write my book, and I couldn't write the book until I did voice to text. Then I put it in a text file, and then I used Grammarly to fix my grammar. I ran away from home at 14, didn't have much education, and she said, "How do you write music?" And I said, "I don't." She goes, "Well, I don't understand. How do you do music?" I said, "In my head." I used to work at the Metropolitan Opera House as a spear carrier on stage at 14. We all dropped acid one day. It's a great story in my book. Or the whole non-singing crew dropped acid, and it was like an Animal House comedy routine. You know what I mean?
Man.
But she said, "How do you do it?" She was a surgeon and a doctor. And I said, "Well, I pretend I'm sitting in the audience of the opera, and I'm looking down on a stage, and the sounds are there." She goes, "Wait a minute, are your sounds, you see colors?" I said, "No, I don't have, what's that called? People hear sounds and see colors." Synesthesia. She says, "But I think you have a form of it." She says, "How do you see your sounds?" And I said, "Soft objects, fuzzy objects, spiky objects, close ones, further ones that are blurry, things that fly over your head." And she says, "You have a form of synesthesia that's not color, that's sound, visual sound related."
Man.
And so that's how I do to me it's normal, I don't know, but that's how I do my music. And I think people respond because it's very pure.
Do you ever hear, does it ever come upon you, washed over you? Like, do you ever just, you're just minding your own business, and just music starts playing?
Yeah. It's feelings. It's I want to do something deep. I want to do something happy. I want to do, I just released, it's called Welcome to My House, 90s house music. And I remember being in clubs like Twilo and Sound Factory in the Tunnel in New York, because that's where I'm from, or the Fridge in Brixton in London. And I had a feeling when I was there. I liked the funkiness and hanging out and partying, and that's my basis for making the music. So I went from that feeling upward. I wanted to create that bass and that drum, which had this groove, and then I ornamented it on top. And on that album, there's black girl singing, there's a gospel singer, there's choir, gospel choir. That's me.
What?
Wait. I sort of sing like, la, la, this is the rhythm of house music. And I can't sing. But then I would go into Logic and I would correct the pitch.
This is the rhythm of house music. Yeah, I can't
do those notes, but music, I could do that. And there's something called the vocoder, which replaces your voice with a synthesizer.
Okay, now I'm going to use the vocoder to add a kind of a flavor to my voice. There are two components. One is the voice, the other one is a synthesizer, and the vocoder mixes both things together. For example, if I would play this two notes, you wouldn't hear anything, but if I talk in the mic, you would hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could have a kind of a computer voice, or an old 60 sound.
But now with AI, I'm replacing my voice with another voice instead of a synthesizer. So I could be a black girl, I could be a choir, I could be a gospel singer, I could be a white dude, I could be a rock and roll singer.
Yeah.
So
hey, can we pause? I have to.
My memory's up on this screen recording. I'm just gonna switch something out and get the memory back.
Synesthesia, dual hemispheres.
Right. So as I was saying, I think. Well, she said she's a doctor, you know, and a trauma surgeon and all that. She said I have a form of synesthesia. So I don't read or write music, but I see it. I was building stuff on the feeling upward.
I was going to ask you that question if you had it, because you just seem so. Like I said before, I only listen to the house singing in Boogie Down Bronx. Music seems so natural, so like perfectly fits in.
Because it's not about the music; it's about the sound. Boogie Down Bronx is filled with a lot of weird shit. Hip hop, bebop is. I was embarrassed when they put that out because there was no verse, there was no chorus, there was no bridge, and I thought I was going to get laughed at. It was sort of like a sound poem, you know, an experiment in sound under a beat, and people loved it because it sounded so different from every other pop or dance or radio record, right? But like I said, my thing is sound, so it's a collection of sounds.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, the sounds are great, and the quality is great, and it's just so unique," because I can't read or write music, but I can make sounds.
Well, now there could be Beatles, and I guess a lot of other people. It comes from within, and because you have synesthesia,
all music comes from within. But I'm not approaching it as music. I'm approaching it as sound.
Because you have synesthesia, are you good at painting or good at sculpture? Other art forms, mediums?
I have some silk screens and paintings. I don't have them in this room, but I do. But I'm audio based. Like if I'm sitting in traffic or I'm walking down the street, especially like in Manhattan, and I'm hearing like in an engine, I'm going, and then I'm hearing and I'm like getting, oh shit, let me do a track, you know. So noise to you is music to me. I wanted to do a walking tour of New York. Now, you said you have a Zoom recorder.
Yes, sir.
I love these things because
I do too.
You could put headphones in them and turn it up really loud, and now suddenly you're hearing shit that you never heard before because it's severely amplified, right? And I wanted to do a walking tour with people with headphones and Zoom recorders, and you're just hearing shit that you normally don't hear because you either block it out and listen for patterns of sound. There are artists like Steve Reich and Philip Glass which use loops of sound. And they've kind of put and there's music for 40 musicians, 20 musicians, and he just keeps putting these loops on top of each other, and it makes this kaleidoscope of sound with waves of patterns that come in and out. One of my favorite pieces of music, but I understand what he hears because I'm hearing the same thing. I'm hearing patterns of sound, repetitive loops, and stuff like that, which is a blessing and a curse because it could drive you crazy.
Have you encountered every sound and musical rhythm pattern possible, or are you still?
Nope. Well, so there's what, 12 notes in a key, right? So I don't know what the math is, 12 times whatever to the nth power, but there's a lot of songs that are 1, 4, 5 progression, you know, but each one sounds unique and different. So I haven't discovered it. And there's new form. When I grew up, there was only one kind of synthesis, which is called subtractive synthesis. You had a buzzy synthesizer oscillator, and you filtered it and you shaped it with an envelope so that it would be boom, beep, or beep, beep, or bak, ba, you know, and mwah. That's how I grew up. I learned synthesis through physics. I went to a synthesizer class where we had to learn what a waveform is. A sine wave is a flute, a sawtooth wave is brass, a pulse wave is a reed, a filter will shape that down to a flute, or mwah would be a horn. You know, so I learned the physics of sound first. So that's why I'm sound oriented. I didn't go to music school where I learned music theory.
You come in a different way.
I was very embarrassed. So sound with technology, synthesis with technology has changed. There's additive synthesis, subtractive synthesis, there's granular synthesis, there's wavetable synthesis, there's all kinds of shit going on now, which takes that palette. It's like if you had RGB, red, blue, green painting colors, and then CMYK, cyan, whatever the CMYK means, in colors, suddenly opened up from 256 colors to 16 million colors, and now all of a sudden I'm into billions of colors. It's the sound equivalent.
Man.
So I also learned, and this will help people write or do music. When I started, I only had 8 tracks of music: a vocal, a drum, one keyboard, a bass sound, 2 or 3 other things, and that was it. And I often wonder, why does my early music sound so cool? Because I had to make musical decisions. Now I just got a Mac a Pro Studio. I can have 400 tracks of audio. Back then I only had 8 tracks of audio. I had to make decisions. This is too crowded, there's too much. So I learned how to arrange music, right? But now I also learned that there's audio spectrum. If you have a kick drum and you have a bass drum, they're both in the bottom end. If you were to turn your hearing down and just hear that low end of music on a graphic equalizer or that bass treble button, mid-range treble button that you have on your stereo, if you can get rid of the mid-range and treble, you have the bass. You don't want the because the kick drum and the bass are fighting. So you could find frequency pockets. Is the bass the lead sound, so that's the lower punchy sound, and your kick drum is keeping time? Or is your kick drum driving the beat and your bass sound is above it? You cut out holes in the spectrum. Like with vocals and stuff like that, a guitar, a horn, a keyboard can cover up your vocals because it's in the mid-range of your hearing. So you have to cut out pockets of where these things are, or in arrangement, you have to drop things out so the voice comes through because they're saying something important, and then the chorus comes in, which is repetitive. You could bring that shit in because the voice is less important because, hey, let's party. Okay, back down to the verse because you're telling a story. So you have to learn these things, and it helps you do arrangements and better mixing. So...
do you ever, them be the rules, do you ever find success breaking the rules? No rules.
My friend Michael Levine, he's a genius in music. He works with George Lucas and people, and what's his name, who did Batman and Inception.
Christopher Nolan?
No, the music guy. Oh man, Hans Zimmer and stuff like that. He was working with him, and he's like, "Whoa, Michael," he goes, "No, I wish I was you." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, you color outside the lines." I said, "Why did you turn it up to 11?" And you said, "Because it sounds good." And he goes, "Well, I was taught that you could never turn it up past 10, and even 9 was dangerous." You know what I mean? He said in one song I had a major and minor thing overlapped each other. And he freaked out and he went, "Wait a minute, this works." Only he could do that because he's not confined by the rules of music, music theory. When I gave him my first album, he goes, "Your whole album's in the key of C." And I said, "I'm sorry." He goes, "No, you pulled it off. You did it."
Man.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't know any other key.
It's great. It's wonderful.
And it turns out it made the album cohesive because all the songs were in the same key. It just flowed from one song to another. But in music theory, they would tell you no. You can't have everything in the same.
There are no rules. Children in American public schools today are not being taught how to write in cursive, making them unable to produce cursive signatures or even read cursive.
What? I just realized I cannot read cursive.
Older Americans who were taught cursive in their youth seemingly have a superpower that the youth lack now. Your beginning years in music were done on analog and early digital equipment. Does your vast and deep prior experience with innumerable classic analog and early digital effects give you some sort of superpower of your own?
I fucking hated it. Fucking hate it. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, you came from analog." I mean, I have Giorgio Moroder's sequencer that he did Donna Summer's I Feel Love. It's an MC8 microcomposer, right? You have to probe that. It was 3 channels, one for the sound, one for the on and off of the note, and one for, it was gate trigger and voltage of the note. And you had to sit there with a calculator, and everything had to equal 12. And if any of them went out of sync, it's like 2 flashing lights, and they would start to go out of sync, and 40 bars in, everything was out of sync. And there was no undo or edit. You had to erase and go back and enter hexadecimal things on a fucking keyboard, on a keypad, and it was maddening.
Yeah.
One day, I had old analog synthesizers, and you would program a bass note, and the oscillators would warm up, and you'd come back 4 hours later, and the sound would drift, and it would be out of tune. But I was tired. I thought I could get the sound back. I had everything programmed in this, and I thought, let me go to sleep. I'm exhausted. I'll wake up in the morning. I'll go in the studio. I'll hit record, and I'll stripe this down on tape. I'll have like a Giorgio Moroder I Feel Love counterpoint thing going on, because that, this is before computers, right? It was this hardware box. I open the door. My dog runs in, trips over the power cord, and wipes out 12 hours of hexadecimal with a calculator programming. Fuck that.
Yeah.
The fact that I can recall stuff is great. The fact that I can take my phone and go, hey, this is a text message, kiss my ass and order pizza with my voice, it frees me to do other shit. So I understand the cursive thing, but it's not needed now. We were taught penmanship, because penmanship, when you saw something you wrote on a piece of paper, said who you are. You were either sloppy, or you were cool, or you didn't care. You could see that, or you were neurotic. You could see that in your writing, and that's why it was important to have penmanship, so you look good to the world. You don't need that anymore, right? You could digitally sign your name, with your own font if you go and there's places you can make your own font, and you could digitally sign everything in cursive if you wanted to. It's not as important as it was, because the technology and the times have changed.
Is AI mightier than the pen?
AI is great for many, many things, and I'm not afraid of it. I welcome it.
Wow.
I since I only had a 9th grade 3 months of a 9th grade less 8th grade, I had a month of 9th grade, 2 months of 9th grade education. I was book smart, but I didn't have. In those days, you had to take typing, because there were no computers. If you had to type out a letter and get a job, you had to know how to type. I'm glad AI is here. It helped me when I wrote my book. There's something called Grammarly. You pay $120 a month for it. And it's saying, yo, use bitches, what's up? And it's saying, don't you want to say, hey, guys, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe I should change it. You know what I mean? So AI and stuff that's AI assist to me is great. People are afraid of AI. I'll tell you a story. When I had synthesizers, people get angry at me, musicians. You're a synthesist. You're going to put orchestras and string sections and horns out of business, and trumpet players. And all those guys that were against me, and the union was against me, they were, we're going to the union, and you can't be in the union if a synthesizer player, you're ruining the industry. They're all synthesists now. So that bass player is no longer a bass player. He's a drummer, a bass player, a string arranger, a horn, and now with AI voices, a vocalist. So the AI stuff is very important to me. I'm going to take a course in AI filmmaking.
Wow.
Because now I could then take my music and visualize it.
Yes. Yeah. How auto-tune was invented?
Yeah. Oh, invented?
Originally, not for music. It was used for deep sea oil location, and it just happened to also have the side other use of that. Yeah.
So I'll tell you the history of a vocoder. So a vocoder is what you hear when you listen to Kraftwerk, or that robot voice that talks like Klingons, that sort of thing. That was developed in the 1920s or 1930s for World War II. It has multiple channels with filters, and it separates your voice into multiple frequencies. They used it during the war to send pieces of a message across that couldn't be decoded. If you heard it, it was... But if you put all those back together again, bomb them at 12 noon or something like that.
Wow! I didn't. Wow.
Yeah, but if you, it was a, it had an encoding and a decoding thing. But when they put them together, you could take any sound. It could be static. if you listen to Kraftwerk, they'll take noise, and it'll sound like this.
Yeah.
You know, like wind whispering, or a oscillator tone. You know, they would break into frequencies, send them separately over a couple of hours, and people couldn't figure out what it was. But when they combined the encoder and the decoder together to have a vocoder, you could put in a synthesizer and a keyboard to control it. And now you could play. And that's how robotic voices came about. That typical robot voice. Well, there's 2 or 3 ways now of doing it. You could speak in a microphone and replace the timbre of your voice with a synthesizer. With AI, I could replace the tone of my voice, which means it's keeping the inflection. So if I say hello or hello, it'll do that. But now instead of a robot voice, I could sample your voice, my voice, a singer's voice, a girl's voice, and I'll become that voice. It'll keep my inflections, but it will replace it with that. And that's what I did off of this album that I have. Because I'm not a good singer, and I have shit in my head, and I can't find singers, and I don't have the money to pay them. But that's not going to stop me.
You sounded great. You sounded great. Fantastic.
Well, I mean, I go, yeah.
It's passion.
It's
But I
passion.
don't sound like a black girl, so I yeah. And then I replaced that. I took my voice and we left the notes, the words, and I replaced it with a black girl singer.
There's a lot of equipment behind you.
This is old school analog gear. This thing would normally take up a very large living room. These are individual modules. These things would be like that big in the old school days. This is called Euro Rack. They took those, they miniaturized it. This would have been, in the old days, like $50,000 worth of synthesizer. But basically what I do is, let me get this out. I use Apple Logic. These are recording tracks, but on any of these particular tracks, oh, wait a minute, I still have the screen thing here. If I go into a track, and you're not going to be able to see much, let me go, I got to make a new, this one here. If I go in here, I don't know if you can see these drop-down menus.
I can see, yes.
All that, each one of that is a synthesizer.
Man.
Each one of, this whole thing, and then I can go in and I can choose computer-modeled, like here. These are synthesizers, so if I do this, let me go to a Jupiter 8, and I open this up. This is a note-to-note recreation of a synthesizer, right?
Man.
So that sounds exactly... Let me turn the volume up. And there's programs on it. So that's how I have virtual instruments that I can lay down and use. I have drum machines, I have synthesizers, I have orchestras, I have violins and all that kind of stuff. This is just, I have over 1,000 plugins.
Man.
So say I wanted a different kind of synthesizer, I can go in here. Let me just choose another one. This is the synthesizer that Vangelis used.
Man.
It's a perfect recreation. I wonder if I could find his horn sound. So whatever's in my head, I could pull up full orchestras, I could pull up full strings, and each one of these things in here are music. So my friend sang vocals in his studio and sent it to me. I build the tracks and then I piece them all together.
That's amazing.
It's technology. Yeah. Learn your shit.
Yeah.
If you're a woodworker or you're laying pipe, whatever you're doing, learn your skill and you become good at it. I also have hardware synthesizers. I don't know if I can bring this over here, but like this is a hardware synthesizer over here. It's off right now, but I have some hardware synthesizers that I use as a Prophet. There's some keyboard stuff there, but I mostly use the plugins because it's a lot easier to deal with.
And you own the actual ones. So and you see
I
no
have
difference.
the actual ones. They're in my storage unit.
You
but,
have.
Wow.
they're getting old and they're getting rusty. Some of them are 50 years old and all that. I have like Giorgio Moroder's sequencer. I have the vocoder from Electric Light Orchestra from Mr. Blue Sky. That was my vocoder. Over the years, I picked up stuff here and there. I got a few other little treasures like that, but they're getting rusty. They're falling apart. They have parts that can't be replaced. I'd rather have a plug-in because it gets updated for free and they add shit to it that the originals don't have.
Yeah. I know a repairman if you're ever looking. I know you probably don't too.
I had people that, will you sell your OB8? I need it for parts. I'm like, Vangelis, do you have a CS80 synthesizer because I can't get the parts for it? And I said to Vangelis, I wish I did, but no, I don't. I had the plug-in. He goes, I'm not using plugins, but maybe I should, that kind of stuff. But and it's analog and it's heavy and you got to set it up and you got to plug it in and it weighs 50 pounds and you got to clear off a desk to put it on and then you're playing it and fuck that.
I want to ask you if digital or analog is better, but first, may I just check, make sure I'm recording? So let me just make sure, just like a stupid check. Why don't we do
this? At the top there should be a stop if you're recording.
Digital versus analog. You've lived on both ends using the best of each. Which is better, if ever?
I know that's a big deal right now because there's a generation that didn't hear analog and it's warm and fuzzy and I like it. But I like you can't do... I hate spatial audio from Apple and Dolby. It fucks up the sound and it dilutes harmonics and stuff like that. I don't like it. I turn it off. I have tons of headphones. I have a pair of headphones, which is a virtual studio, and it's made by Slate, and I could be in any world-class recording studio, and it models it and fucks it up. I'm old school stereo. I like digital because I can get clarity. If I want analog, I'll see if I can find it here. I'll show you what I do. Tape. Virtual tape machine. Check this out. So I record in digital. Can I make this bigger? I guess I can't. If you can see that this is a virtual tape recorder. I'm going to hit play. Let me mute the sound. See I can't. Can I get this any bigger? I don't know if I can make it even bigger. I want you guys to see it.
It's like a reel-to-reel. Yeah.
It's a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and can you see that? This fucking.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
I can't stand what Apple does when it does the zooming. It's driving me crazy. There's a way to turn it off. I don't know how to do it. Okay, so that's the tape machine. I could choose what type of analog I want. Do I want let's see if I move this out of the way. Move this out of the way. All right, it's a virtual tape machine, and what I can do is choose what kind of tape I have, because in the old school days, some tapes were brighter, some tapes were duller, and I could choose what speed I want, 15 IPS or 30 IPS, which would change how it's recorded. So I record in digital. If I feel the need that it's too bright, I can dumb it down with an analog plug-in. Analog is nice for warmth, but if you're dealing with sounds and palettes and colors, you don't always want everything warm. What if you're doing something hard-ass? You know what I mean? Rock and roll, techno, some hard fucking headbanger bullshit. You want that digital, dubstep. You want that hard. If you're doing a ballad or something really soft, maybe you want the digital, but we have ways around it with plugins. But I don't like only analog because you don't. I like the air between the notes. If you can hear I like the space between the notes.
Yes.
And analog blurs that.
That's brilliant.
And I write music for the notes, but I also write the music behind the notes. It's not music, but it's the thought and it's the ambience and the space. And analog will take that and smash it together. Analog is great and has a beautiful sound. But if you're playing stuff through a speaker, you want analog, it's right in your face, it's punchy. But I do stuff for headphones. So if you have headphones on, I want you not only to hear here, but I want you to hear around here. And it's harder to control on analog.
Is there any song you've ever made that you prefer be listened in mono?
No.
Interesting.
Because I don't hear in mono, and neither do you.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
But when I'm mixing, certain things are in mono for focus because it goes to both ears and it's sitting right here in your head. You don't hear in mono. You hear in you don't see in 1D. You see in 3D. You hear in 3D.
Right.
So it's not natural to hear in mono, unless I'm trying to focus something in, and it's so important that you need to hear it. I did a piece of music where we had a Martin Luther King thing on it. It was so important that it came through that it was mono, but it drove me crazy. So I have it mono moving around in mono.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like
So if you're listening in headphones, you're going, oh, it's keeping my attention. It's something to look at. It's a shiny object. But you don't hear in mono. I don't hear in mono. You don't see, in 2D. You see in 3D.
Vint Cerf, one of the co-founders of Google, says, and I think he's right, he says that in 100 years, right now that we're alive is going to be considered a modern dark ages simply for the fact that because of all the format changes and digitization, we're not going to be able to...
He's wrong.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a renaissance because we're discovering all this stuff and we're discovering new technology and we're switching from analog to digital and finding ways to do it.
No, not dark age, like in the sense of what we're leaving behind for it to be able to be readable by future generations is going to be less so.
You could digitize anything that's important. Most things that are important are digitized. There's a whole I don't know how they do it. There's a whole archive of the web. How the fuck with terabytes and terabytes a day, but somehow or another it's archived. There's a web time machine where you can go back and look at porn sites from the 90s. I mean, how the fuck did they do that?
The Wayback Machine, and the joke is the niece of the guy that runs it is exempt from it, so she could literally delete. It's true. She like goes and deletes old social media, and like she's like the only person on the earth.
Listen, I'm on Wikipedia. I'm a black or Spanish kid from the Bronx, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm like. I don't mind being black or Spanish, but I'm not 27 and I'm from Brooklyn, not the Bronx. And I'm sorry, you're not allowed to change that. You're not authorized. And it's like Man Parrish. I'm Man Parrish. Sorry, somebody else has to do it for you. But the other person who's doing it for me thinks that I'm some young kid. You know what I mean? And that's not who I am. I'm sorry, you don't have rights. Put in a disclaimer. And then I'm sorry, your disclaimer was rejected on who you are because we can't verify who you are. It's like,
Right.
So there's always going to be editing. There's always going to be shit going on.
There's a Club 27 in rock music. Speaking of 27, is there a similar noteworthy club in the music scenes that you've traveled?
Well, growing up there was, if you're into hip-hop from my day, early street music, there was the Fever in the Bronx. There was the Fun House in New York. It was basically New York metro-based. In Chicago, I wasn't into... house music, but there are places that Frankie Knuckles played. In New York, there was the Paradise Garage, of course, Disco Studio 54, which I went to every weekend. In England, in the 90s, there was the Fridge in Brixton. There are landmark clubs where music broke out and was played. Todd Terry in Detroit, where you are. I don't know what the clubs were, but I'm sure he had a residency somewhere. And kept, a Detroit techno house going, you know what I mean? So there were in many places. Well, rock and roll in New York, before there was disco, before there was house, it was rock and roll, jazz, or classical. There was CBGB's and Max's Kansas City. Aerosmith used to come down. They were just a local band, and they would stand outside, trying to get pussy. There was we saw Brian Eno and David Bowie introduce Devo, as a new band from Ohio.
Did you have to have a cabaret card to perform in New York?
No. No,
Okay.
they didn't.
I
No.
heard.
I don't know if that was a thing or
Because
not.
people would people would come through. Debbie Harry Blondie was the bartender, and she'd get up and do Blondie and then come back down. David Byrne and the Talking Heads were like, just a local weird group.
What?
The B-52s were like a local group. I mean, I know Fred Schneider. I mean, I could go on. Joan Jett, when she was alone with the Runaways, and they came by in a van and they had like prom dresses on because they thought it was hip and cool. Wendy Williams with X's on her nipples. She put a guitar in this case, and she turned on a chainsaw while it's going and cut right through it on stage, freaking people out.
Yeah.
We'd hang out at the Mud Club with Brian Eno. You know what I mean? So it's weird, but it was a very small city. I mean, I don't know if you know who Keith Haring is. He's the guy.
Yes, the artist.
The artist who did the child, the stick drawings and stuff
Yes,
like that.
legendary.
I hung out with Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat. Andy Warhol changed my name from Manny to Man because he thought Manny was too uncommon and named me after Man Ray, who's an artist and the photographer in the 40s. I mean, but they were just people that hung out in clubs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, that was just a shit, I have a picture of Madonna in my dressing room when I see if I can pull it up over here.
Yeah.
Madonna in my dressing room when I played at Studio 54. She was my opening act, and she was like nobody. Here we go. And it's funny. You're gonna see. That's me with makeup on.
You look great.
Man.
And that's her in my dressing room. And this is Joey Arias, who did all the makeup and the stuff. And we're back. This is my dressing room at Studio 54. I came down from the ceiling. And if you want to know the story, it's available on YouTube and my Man Parrish stories. But I got stuck. I went from my mother died. I went from putting my mother into the grave in the morning to just rehearsal at Studio 54. And they said, "How do you want to make an entrance?" And I was out of my mind. I said, "I want to come down from the ceiling because we got you hooked up." They lifted me up there on a little parakeet perch, and those are the days of the really hot lights and 1,000-watt bulbs. I was in a corduroy jumpsuit and a corduroy Darth Vader hood designed by Kansai Yamamoto, who did all of David Bowie's costumes.
Man.
And I'm up in the fucking rafters, and he said, "We're right after this song. We got to get you up real quick. You're going to come down. The show's going to start." This disco and dance songs were 12 minutes long. Song ends, and then they put on another song. And I went, "Oh, they must have a technical difficulty." I'm now up there for 13 or 14 minutes above these hot 1,000-watt lights. I'm sweating, no net, no wrist restraint. I'm on this little parakeet perch and 2 wires, and I'm starting to slip. And he said, "Don't move back and forth because there's neon here and neon there that we lowered down on the crowd." He said, "If you hit that, you'll get electrocuted and shattered glass all over the audience." And I'm starting to I'm trying to readjust, and I'm swinging like back and forth. And I flip. I'm screaming, "Help!" And of course, you can't hear it over a massive system like Studio 50. I thought they'd forgotten it. Then a third song came on, and the guy that I was with we used to go with a dry ice machine. He's supposed to put this much dry ice on the stage, so it was mystical. And we had this creature that walked up the stage and lanterns, and I lowered from the ceiling. And they were going to put my hood off, and he put about 7 feet of fog on the stage because he turned the machine on and went to go get a free drink. And I thought the stage was here when it was actually, the smoke was here when it was there. And I thought, let me jump off a couple of feet above. My cape will open up and it'll look good as I land. I went 2.5 stories down through the smoke, twisted my leg, and everybody, Joey and the other people, the creature, they're all in the smoke, and the music's going. And I'm like, "Where is everybody? I'm over here. Don't move. You'll fall off the edge of the stage. Where are you? I'm over here. Just follow my voice. Follow my voice." In complete, like, whiteout. "Be careful. You're going to fall off the edge of the stage." And luckily, I didn't lip sync, but I had background vocal on there just in case the sound man fucked up. It was at half volume, so I could double it and it would sound doubled live. Luckily, that was on there because most of the first song, I couldn't even find the microphone stand. And when the smoke cleared, everybody go, "Oh my God, this is incredible! I've never seen anything like this before." But it was a fuck up. Yeah, it was crazy. Grace Jones was behind a scrim. It was her birthday party, and that's where she started using hoods, because I had a hood with smoke there. I used to stand there and smoke would come out of the hood and fill the stage, but we couldn't do it if I was lower down, so we broke them into two separate things. Henry Kissinger was dancing with a tranny, and in those days you didn't have cell phones, so you couldn't take pictures, but the rumors were going to go, Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State, if you're watching this and you don't know. And they would have said Henry Kissinger, Studio 54 tranny lover. So they took the tranny, whose name was Putasa, Puta means whore, Putasa away, and they put Brooke Shields there because she had thick eyebrows. It wasn't, and took a picture, it wasn't a tranny, it was Brooke Shields. She looks like a man, but that's her look.
Right.
You know? You got to go to my Man Parrish stories. That's the O-R-I-S. Yeah, MANPARRISH stories.
Absolutely.
If you have a Kindle, you can get volume 1 of my book for free. I'm writing 2 and 3. My friend died in Boy George's apartment. Freddie Mercury tried to pick me up at a gay bar, which is hysterical. It's the funniest thing, you know, this buck-toothed queen. Who the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Some great stories.
What is your favorite feature about yourself, and is it the same as it was when you were younger? My guess would be your eyes. Are those your eyes on your album artwork for the Detroit, Chicago, New York house album you just did? Are those your eyes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me pull up the artwork. I'm an artist. You know what I mean? See, I do Man Parrish artist.
Yeah, you get those.
But I distort them, you know what I mean, and I stretch them, and the eyes are mine, but I want it to be something personal, and it's creepy and weird, but it's also, whoa, those eyes are in, you know, in my face, you know what I mean?
Is that your favorite feature?
I thought it was going to be my dick, you know, because it gets the most use.
Well.
I don't know if I have a favorite feature of my body.
As
I get older, I'm you know, everything falls and you become wider. You know what I mean? It's just nature and gravity. When you get older, you fight that. My mind has always been hard. My mother was schizophrenic, and that's in my book and stuff. So I had my therapist at the time said, "Would you ever? If you had to go through all this again, would you?" And I said, yeah, because it's who I am now.
There's a connection between schizophrenia and ambidextrousness.
I'm not ambidextrous.
Interesting.
Wait, hold on. I have to. No, I'm right-handed.
Okay. Gotta check every now and then. You are yet another New Yorker that moved to Florida. Are there many fellow New Yorkers in your area that help you remember your hometown?
I just came back from New York last weekend, and it freaked me out. When I grew up in New York, it was a small town as far as, you know, creative people, and everybody was an artist and everybody's creative. Now everybody's a TikTok and all that kind of shit, and that's cool. Different generation. You know what I mean? I don't care. You know, you're a podcast or whatever. Hey, it is, and you know, I do some of that myself. That's cool, but I think the amount of artists and creative people and crazy people, well, a lot higher back then, and it made life interesting day to day. I'd go to a party and talk to somebody. What do you do? I'm a musician. What do you do? Oh, I paint with my blood and my feces. You know, and you go, okay, that's your thing. You know, now if somebody said that to you, you cancel them and flip out, and everybody's very political, and you know, everybody's a podcaster looking for somebody else's talent to report on. When I grew up, you were the person, and you were the creator. You weren't creating, wasn't having a channel. Creating was, you were an artist or a painter or a photographer, and that's what you presented to the world, which was you. That later changed to more of a global thing, where I'm going to find interesting places, interesting people, interesting topics, and bring it to you through my channel. So I went back to New York, and we had an apartment on Avenue 10th Street between A and B, and that used to be like shooting galleries and like crackheads and junkies and hookers. You know, I jokingly say, because I managed Village People for 6 years, I was raised by drag queens and the Village People, and I got a brick in my purse. You know what I mean? It was hard and kind of dangerous, but it was always interesting. There was always something interesting going on. There wasn't depression. There wasn't isolation. When we went out, we didn't have texting. We didn't have phones. We didn't have all that. So I had to go to a club to hang out with my friends. I'm not against what's going on now. I had to go to a club to hang out with my friends. So we made different kind of connections. And it's like, oh shit, I'm looking for, red paint and glitter. Oh, I got some in my closet. Why don't you come by? Hey, why don't you help me on the project? And suddenly a collaboration happens. It's a lot harder to do now because people have a lot of isolation because it's easier to just get online. All my friends are from Europe and all around the world, which is great because I couldn't call them normally. But the other side is I can't, other than FaceTiming, I can't be with them in person. So I miss that. New York is all about real estate and politics now, and everybody's seen, the place was kind of dirty. I remember I took the auto train up from Florida, drove to Orlando, got on the train, got outside of Washington, D.C., and right away, I don't know, everybody was like kind of in a rat race and all that. And now that I'm down in Florida, we still have the apartment in New York, I do more work because I have less distractions. I don't have to go to a club. I don't have to be at that fabulous art gallery opening. I could sit here for hours and put a piece of music together, and don't worry if I'm not fabulous up FOMO, fear of missing out, or somebody's going to think I'm a snob because I didn't show up to their opening or something like that. That's great, but after the opening, I go home alone, and it's like I'm married to my music. My music is my soul and what I do.
Interesting.
And I'd rather do that than stand around, darling, what's going on? This is fabulous.
Right.
I've never been like that, and it's been to my detriment. Had I been more of a prick and a snob, I would have gotten a lot further with my career because people would have kissed my ring. I can't stand that. You are as equal as I am. Well, no, you're as equal as I am. You're a human being, and you have just as much right to breathe and eat and fart and fuck and whatever, create that I do. There's nothing more special about me except for I'm more prolific at it. If I'm good at what I do, I thank God for that. But as far as human to human, there's no difference between me and you.
A lot of people say those words, but when you say them, I believe them.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding because
exactly.
I'm not sitting here in some fabulous outfit and I carefully, I have a backyard with palm trees, and I'm sitting here, darling. Hold on, let me sip some whatever. And when I did this, and then when I did that, and it's not who I am, and it's been to my detriment. But I don't care. I don't do music now because I'm not gonna. I'm 67 years old. Look, I'm not gonna have a fucking hit record, or maybe I will.
You will.
The old guy. Let's drag him out.
No,
and do a record with
good is good.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I believe you. Well,
like they did with Santana, right? I do music for my legacy, right? So maybe one day in the future, somebody's taking a music class out of college or NYU or Berkeley, and they're gonna. Here's this guy, Man Parrish. He was completely off the rails, and he did music without, learning music. But look at all the work that he did. I want to be an example.
Where do you see yourself in 500 years, both your working body and your body of work?
Well, if there's so supposedly, I follow AI and stuff. They had a kid who had some sort of a liver disease or spine disease, and they used AI, did their DNA and did a custom cocktail that fixed their DNA. They had to take shots or something over 3 months, and it fixed this when no doctor could. There was a woman who had a deadly brain disease. Same thing happened. They sampled their DNA, threw it into AI, and it said, if we do this and correct this gene, it'll take a couple of weeks or months for the body to regenerate with it. And they did, and she was cured. So they say, we're in, I have to look at a calendar, we're in 2025. It's funny. When you're crazy, they say, who's the president? But when you're semi-retired, it's like, what is today's date? All right, that's
good problem to have. No, good problem to have. You're on island time.
Yeah, exactly. But they say if you could make it through the next 5 years, there's probably going to be genetic custom scanning of your body, and AI will put together your perfect cocktail for you and fix what's wrong with you. So they say you could easily live past 100 and all that. I'm hoping to be there, one of the first, or an example of it. If I have the public's ear, I love life. I don't want it. there are some people, fuck it, I'll party, I'll when I die, I die. When it happens, it happens. I'm not religious, and then all of a sudden when the plane goes down, everybody's, please God, no, please God. Everybody's an atheist until the plane goes down, then they're all about please God, right?
Exactly.
So if I'm lying there and one eye is open and I can look out the window and see the sun go up and down, but I'm in a semi-coma, I'm happy because I love life. So as long as I could live, I want to live, and I want to keep doing music.
Amen.
Because it's what I do. That's what keeps me alive.
Amen.
I'm 67. My
You don't
my
look it.
brain is 20 years old.
Yeah, I agree.
My body is 67, and
I think you're young. You come off young.
But I'm trying
You're
to tell
spry.
you something and try to tell some of the younger people. I didn't listen to my body for a long time. My brain was 20 and my body was 50, and I'm still DJing until 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't do drugs. I didn't party for physical reasons. If I did weed, which I love to smoke, I need a chemical vacation. I have that known reaction to THC that it makes me panicky. So I stopped smoking weed. If I drink, I have something called central apnea. When I sleep, my brain doesn't tell my lungs to breathe. If I take a sedative, I stop breathing, so I couldn't get very. No, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I my drug is my music. But I'm not saying my body is clean and I'm not a tree hugger and all that kind of stuff. But when you get older, there's some days that I'm just like, I gotta fucking chill out. My knees are killing me. My back hurts.
Sorry.
I forgot. That's right. I'm 67. I'm almost fucking 70. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Have you got
a boner and I'm 67.
That's
So
good.
Shut up and go to sleep.
Count your blessings.
Yeah, don't. Enough. Stop burning that candle. And I reluctantly do it, but my friends are dropping dead because they're not.
I'm sorry.
Men could die at 65 and 70. I don't want, and I've had friends my age that have died at 65 and 70 because they don't listen to their body. So I'm semi-retired. On the chill out days, I chill out. I put on my Apple Vision Pro. I watch a movie in 3D. I watch porn. I watch, YouTube things about music. I'm always studying online, or I'll take a nap. And it's not I'm not old because I took a nap. I'm preserving my body and respecting my body so I could live longer and better.
Now this is a little dark, but sadly, recently, Brian Wilson on June 11th passed away several days ago. And if he had made it just another 9 days, he would have died on June 20th, the first day of summer, which would have been a more poetic death for the Beach Boy.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yes, so June 21st is not a soul thing. It's a human thing, right? So he died when his body gave up, and he was in bad shape, right? So his soul didn't care about a solstice.
There you go.
We like to do it as artists because it's a poetic thing and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But his body couldn't take it anymore, and he passed.
Now, the question, macabre, is there a poetic time of the year by means you would die or way that you would die?
I'd hate to die in the winter because winter is, for a lot of people, depression. And I wouldn't want to... Listen, something happened when I was 14 years old. I had my tonsils out and I was in the hospital. I nearly bled to death. And I didn't remember to like a month later. I saw myself in the hospital room and blood was coming out like a horror movie every time my heart beat in there. We're losing him. And I was in the black void and I saw the white light. And I recovered from that, right? It's a whole story we don't have to get into. But after that, I realized death isn't painful. And you go, well, what do you mean? If you have a disease that's painful, but the moment of death is something that you, me, everybody listening to, and the billions of people since caveman or Adam and Eve or whatever you believe have been dying. So the human body has got to make it painless. Nature, evolution has got to make it painless. I mean, do you remember your birth? No. Your mother would remember because it's painful for her, but it was probably traumatic and painful for you. But somehow or another, your brain has taken that pain away. There are people that get run over by a car, their foot gets run over by a car, and oh shit, my arm is hanging off. My leg is hanging off. I dislocated my shoulder and didn't know it. And someone said, your shoulder's not here, it's down here. I'm like, ah! Because your body protects you of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of scientific studies that it takes so many milliseconds for the thing to get to your brain. And when this happens, it happens in 1 millisecond, then 20 milliseconds later or whatever, your body in that 20 milliseconds produces heroin, endorphins that numb that and change the way you think, and adrenaline so you don't feel that, so you can get away from those situations, even if you're bleeding or you lost a limb. There's people in Iraq or in the wars that say, I was lying there, my leg was blown off, and I'm going, oh my God, you must be screaming. He's going, no, I'm just thinking, I gotta stop the bleeding and I gotta get home, logically. And I'm going, wait a minute, your leg was blown off, wouldn't you be like screaming? Like, no, you're in shock and your body protects it. And then I realized when this happened to me, your body protects you of it. It has to be. I mean, dude, because then when everybody dies, the moment they die, they'd be, ah!
Right.
That's not the case.
Right. Yeah, death. What feels spiritual? Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't give a fuck. You know what I mean about dying, but I mean, we want to get into it. I believe that we're in hell, and that's a pretty shitty thing to do. Well, all the religions. Now, I studied Tibet Book of the Dead, Tibet. I studied Buddhism, Muslims, Judaism, Catholicism, Chinese Kabbalah. Everyone says that you're going home when you die.
Right.
So, I don't believe in God as a man that sits on a cloud with little angels doing harps, but I believe there's order in the universe and there's energy in the universe and karma. It's the same thing that religions believe in, but they give it different words, that I do.
Right.
And the most common thing is when you die, you go home. But how would a God or an organized system allow animals to be abused, people to get cancer, mental illness, confusion, pain, crying, suffering? I think we're here to work out some shit.
Right.
And I think if it takes a couple of reincarnations and lifetimes till you, not as...
Oh, he's not happy.
Punishment. A lot of religions have us here be punished. I don't think we're punished. I just think it's a timeout and we're here and get your shit together. And I'm doing music in the meantime. But I said to myself, whatever it is, let's get it done in this life because I don't want to come back to this shit.
Amen.
And I have, you're what, 20, 30 years old? How old are you?
Just turned 37.
Okay, so you've been here 37 years. I've been here 67 years. I've seen so much more shit than you do.
I believe it.
And I don't want to come back here. I don't like this. I don't think this is a good place. There's too much suffering. There's too much mental illness. There's too much stress that doesn't seem natural. Right. So if I'm here to work my shit out, let me work it out. Let me get my karma. Let me fix whatever's wrong. I do not want to come back. So if you follow my life, you follow my stories, you're like, this dude has been through so much shit. But I'm saying, get it done now. Get it done now because I want to go home. I want to float on that cloud. I want to be that angel. I want to be that spirit of light with love and friends and connections. I don't want loneliness. I don't want sadness. I don't want mental illness and confusion.
Amen.
And all that. And I don't want to pray it away because the prayer doesn't help. Otherwise, it would have been prayed away with Adam and Eve, and the next generation wouldn't have it. But we have it. So,
let me to that point though. No. The hardest question in all of philosophy is theodicy, the origin of evil. If God is perfect, if God is good, where does evil come from?
Yeah, exactly. And then people say, well, evil has to be here so you could choose between good and evil. And then wait a minute. Then this is a challenge. This is a lesson, and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that stuff. But why can't we find the origins of the universe? I love Elon Musk says that we may be in a simulation. Not that we're in a simulation, but now there's a second or third thing other than religion why we're here. You know what I mean? I mean, we could be a bubble. We could be little sea monkeys in a bubble in some kid's bedroom. We could be the game of life, or we could be like what's really big right now. I don't know, some super massive video game where we're just in there, whatever, who knows? But the fact that we can't figure it out, but we can figure out a lot of shit, says a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, I believe that.
And most people are, who cares? Why even bother?
It matters.
When you get to a certain level of life and you get to a certain level of intelligence, you have questions.
Yeah. Have you you've heard of the French philosopher Blaise Pascal? The guy he used to put his head in the oven, and Pascal's wager. Better to believe that God exists and find out that he doesn't than not to believe that he exists and find out that he does. Oh, Pascal's wager. You think of wager and gambling. I just found this out the other day. It made me crack up and hopefully make you giggle too. Blaise Pascal, just like you, wore many hats, multi-talented Renaissance man, was trying to build a perpetual motion machine and accidentally invented the I don't gamble. What's that thing?
Flashlight?
Yeah. No. When you go to the casino and you throw the dice and the thing roulette wheel.
Roulette wheel.
He invented the man behind Pascal's wager invented on accident the roulette wheel.
Well, so many things are like that, dude. The internet came from military communication because they had to if I wanted to send a message to you in Germany during the war or in the 50s. I couldn't send the message, it could be intercepted. People don't know when you send a message, including what you're seeing right now, either at home or us recording it, it gets broken up into millions of packets of data. Some go through New York, some go to Chicago, some bounce off of a thing in Germany, and they all come back together and you see what it is. And the reason for that is it can't be decoded and it can't be intercepted, right?
Yes, sir.
So a lot of things are invented by accident. The vocoder was a thing and then became a musical instrument stuff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All aboard! All aboard!
Are you a good cook? Curious.
I did an online cooking class. Really? I like big bold flavors, strong. I like savory, not sweet, so garlic and I don't like hot spice. You know what I mean? But I love strong, delicious flavors and all that kind of stuff.
What's the famous dish when you go to see people or they come to see you? You got to bring your famous such and such. Put you on the spot here. I'm sorry.
No. What can I cook? I can make pizzas, pastas, chicken. And all that kind of, because I was carb heavy, now I'm all keto. But in my carb, and not because of a trend, because I try to keep my blood sugars down, because I realize sugar is what kills you, and you live a shorter life with sugar. And sugar doesn't mean sugar. Sugar is carbohydrate. Sugar is even fruit. Sugar is rice, potatoes, bread, beans, and all that kind of stuff. I keep that to a minimum. My doctor said that you do not need carbohydrates. Your liver makes enough of it, unless you're running a marathon or something like that, and then you should take carbohydrates, but your body does not need it, and that's a cause of a lot of our illness. I'm like, sounds crazy, but what the fuck? I'm now 60-something years old. Let me cut it out. And I cut it out, and my life's been better, been healthier, sleeping better. I'm like, maybe there's something to this, maybe it isn't, but I'm sticking because it's working.
Man does not live by bread alone. Well, hey, hopefully you're not to the point, I know you're involved in music, but hopefully you're not doing organ recitals yet, oh, my liver, oh, my,
What was that, the jokes where you're going to wake up in a bath of cold water because they stole your kidneys? Yeah. There was all those urban legends like, don't go out and don't go over there because they'll kidnap you and you wake up in a bathtub of ice water and your kidneys are gone. Well, if your kidneys are gone, you wouldn't wake up. You'd be in sepsis and, very quickly, and you'd be dead. But
this is a true story. There was was it a bus or something intercepted in California, either recently or a number of years ago, and children on it tattooed L, S, or O for labor, sex, or organs.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's evil.
That's why I say there's no God here right now, because how could that happen? And that's a choice between good and evil. Well, how does a 12-year-old... I was in a pedophile ring when I was a kid. So how does that happen in a place where there's holy?
Exactly.
Why didn't those people get struck by lightning and I was freed for a year and a half? Why did I go... So then you can go, well, that's your karmic choice. You had to do that to get to here and all that. And like,
No.
why was there even that? Why can't I
Right.
just live and play in the sun and be healthy and happy? And then my number comes up and I go through the door and I get incinerated and that's the end of my life, like Logan's Run or one of those kind of movies. You know what I mean? So it makes you question shit.
If karma exists, why?
Karma exists. Karma exists because I keep my shit clean, because when I'm outside of my karmic normal, fucked up things happen in my life. I learned that very, very early, around 15, 16 years old. When I do stupid shit, it comes back. I know karma exists, but people don't. But whatever.
I always will ask you a question. I always joke: why are there children in Africa who are born with AIDS that they got from their parent, but they don't get to die from it because they sooner die of starvation? What did they do wrong to deserve that?
There's several answers. So there's logical answers, like the world is fucked up and they were born at the wrong time in the wrong place. There's spiritual answers, like they needed to come into the world for another 3 or 4 years to finish off their karma, that little tail, and they're going to die of starvation of AIDS and then they're gone. And then there's spiritual stuff. You choose your life path because that's what you need to get to the next level. And then there's the dude, that's fucked up. And all those answers are valid.
Right.
Well, because we don't know.
Right. It's metaphysical. It's beyond our
metaphysical, beyond our physical.
Yeah. I'm going all over the place here. Do you believe art can be objectively valued, or is all or most art subjective? I strongly yes.
I did a sound installation at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and the question you have to have a theme for the piece that you do. And I did a sound installation, and it was called "Is Music Art?" It was an empty room, and then does art have to be a painting you see on the wall, or can art be the sound that fills the air? Is it subjective, objective? Does only paintings have value but audio doesn't? And that was the question that I asked, and they loved it because nobody asked that question before.
That's brilliant.
Is sound, not music, but is sound art? Is it you have abstract paint on a canvas, that's art, but is abstract sound art? And I have a piece on it's going to be hard for people to listen to, but if you understand what it's from, on iTunes and on Spotify, wherever you stream, it's called Man @MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, Man at MoMA, and it's designed as waves of sound that fill a room, that come at you and take you through darkness and then happy and then air and then silence and then weird sound effects and stuff like that. So is sound art? So is it objective, subjective? I think it's all of those. There's some pieces of art I go, that's fucking cool, man. Good creativity. Oh, wow, that made me think. One's objective, subjective, or yeah, that's fucking bullshit. But here we go. Is that reaction that I'm having? That's bullshit. Give me a reaction. I had to think about it. Is that valid? What do you call it? Like Andy Warhol. I knew somebody who worked with him. Andy Warhol didn't do a silk screen. Somebody else did. And he took a picture of a Campbell soup can, and they silk screened it, and they put it out there, and people, oh my God, he's documenting America and, Campbell soup. And Andy Warhol was in shock. What? Quick, print more. Maybe we'll make some money.
Right.
He was as shocked as people's reactions. Like hip hop bebop to me was a whole bunch of sounds, but dude, you're a legend. It's a legendary piece of music, and it's unique and different. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have a verse and a chorus, and I'm being put out there. I thought it'd be more in an art gallery. I had dreams of doing sound installations at art galleries, and I wanted to set up speakers in the Grand Canyon and play music. And, as a kid, I'm having all these fantasies and stuff like that. But what is art like? I don't even know what that means. Is that a reaction? You could drill down a rabbit hole with this. You know what I mean?
If it wasn't you, would it have been someone else? The first one through the door?
Eventually somebody would have done something. I was in the right place. They're like, oh, you're a genius and you did this. I was in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? Because no one else did it.
And then you have 3 works in the permanent collection at the Museum of Modern Art, New York. If you could select a fourth to be added, which of
I
your
have a
works?
song called The Wait, W-A-I-T, and there's also Requiem for a Queen. Those are like classical pieces. The Wait is just a very personal piece of music and very soft. It's my soft insides because everybody sees me as doing dance and hip-hop and house music, and it's my soft inside, so I'd love that. People will listen to it and go, oh my God, this guy also had feelings. Requiem for a Queen is a movie in my head where I'm up in the organ rafters at the what's the cathedral where they bury the queens in England?
Abbey.
Westminster Abbey.
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
looking down. I went to St. John of the Divine in New York, and at these incredible cathedrals, and I'm looking down, and they're taking the body, and coffin of the queen, and they're bringing her slowly to the front. And that music that I did, Requiem for a Queen, is the music I wrote for this movie in my head of the casket going down. So yeah, I just want people to know that I'm not just hip hop and dance and all that kind of shit. I have other stuff I do, and if you like it, great. If you don't, I totally understand. But that's from my archive. That's from my legacy. That's from my future.
Love that. If you were queen for a day, would
Which
you?
I've been
All you old-time queens.
many days.
Would you play a stadium gig covering all of your past hits, or would you write and record a new Queen single? Got you there. No, the band
No, you
name.
didn't. No, because I met Freddie Mercury.
I know.
I would do both because I've been in the entertainment side of the music business long enough, and if people came to a stadium, they're going to want to hear stuff that I did that they're friendly with. But I'd also want to throw in some classical or ambient piano music, some cover tunes. Like, wait a minute, he also does that. I like theater. I went to high school performing arts where they did the movie Fame, and I worked at Metropolitan Opera House, and I've had art rock bands like Shock's Lumania. Forget about what it sounds like, but if you go to manparrish.com, you'll see I'm a 17-year-old kid with purple hair. You know what I mean? And a little eye makeup like Brian Eno from the old school, before anybody was doing that. And we would have different costume changes for each song. So theater is something that I came out of. I worked with a guy, Klaus Nomi, who used to wear a fake tuxedo and sing like Woman Like an Opera, you know what I mean? And then my stuff, which was smoke machines, and it was more the party side, big giant balloons and smoke machines and creatures walking on stage, which is lame now, but it was really hip then. So if I play someplace, it has to be a show. It has to be a theater. Not a theater, but it has to be theatrical. Each song is an individual thing. And now with video screens, or if I do AI filmmaking, I'll be able to express the visual side of my audio. Crazy. I would do a combination of songs that people know, some songs that everybody knows, a few cover tunes, and some shit like, wow, you did that too? Wow. So the answer is both.
Elvis.
And I've been queen for a day about 3 times this week already.
All right.
I'm gay, obviously. No, I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is, right?
You're gay!
Right.
I had one of the
Gotta get it
longest
right.
running parties at a gay bar in New York. The bar it had a red rooster, and everybody called it the cock. And I had a Sunday party called Sperm. And it wasn't sperm, but it was supposed to be an art thing because sperm is the new beginning.
Did you have to wear white?
Every weekend I'd move the furniture and I'd focus lights, and we'd have live artists painting and crazy drag queens and naked go-go boys and all that kind of stuff. We kept it interesting each week. And what the fuck I'm losing my
Queen for a day.
A Queen for a day. So this kid comes up to me and he goes, how old are you? And I said, how old are you? I'm 21. I just got my ID. How old are you? I think I was 55. He said, I'm 55. And he said, oh my God, you're older than my mother and my father, you queen. And I said, queen? I said, I'm over 55. I'm an empress. You're a fucking queen. Empresses trump queens. Shut the fuck up, sit down, and get out of my face. So
There you go.
that's right. So yeah, I'm not queen for a day. I'm an empress. I'm higher and exalted.
Elvis was the king of rock. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. They were both crowned in the 20th century. Will there be new kings of rock and pop and other genres in this and coming centuries?
New York Times says that I'm a godfather of hip hop.
And dance music and dance music.
And dance music, and if you talk to people like Todd Terry and techno music and this and that and house and whatever, if they want to say that, that's great. I didn't set out to be a legend, an icon, and whatever. I was just an old school dude that did shit very early in life. And if I'm the first person you could find doing it, then I guess I get the crown in my particular genre. But of course there'll be. There's always going to be new sounds, new trends, and whoever were the first people to do it really well. In my day, in my genre, you only had singles out. And I was one of the first people to have a full album out. And those days, if you had an album, you were considered a real artist. So that's why I had more
respect,
street, credibility. I just worked with Africa Mabata, Planet Rock. A lot of people know that. We're like, dude. He's like, dude, we got to do something. Yeah, let's do something. Send me some beats, and he sends it back as vocal. It's called Boom Boom. It's okay, but we did it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a legend in the music business side that I do. We're there. You know what I mean? But I did. Other people wrote his stuff, or I wrote my stuff. He wrote his lyrics, but I did the I write, I record, I produce, I arrange, I mix, and I master, only because I don't have money for anybody else to do it. So I had to wear all these different hats. And then I had to learn how to promote shit and how to learn how to do my publishing. I mean, I had to do it.
That's amazing.
Because when other people did it, they fucking robbed. David Bowie's manager was my manager and robbed about $150,000 from me in 6 months. You know what I mean? Until the money ran out, he goes, I'm not interested in managing you anymore. Why? Well, there's no money, and I'm not financing you, but you took all of my money and burnt through it. Well, too bad. You're done.
We've already touched this, but it is going independent, most simply put.
It's a blessing and a curse. The power of a record company can promote you, but when you look at people like Beyonce and stuff like that, they're no different than a product of Frosted Flakes or Wrigley or chewing gum or Coke Zero. It's a product. I mean, I'm sure she writes some of her lyrics, maybe hums some melodies, but most of that stuff is done by other people. Madonna is now writing a lot of her music, but still she needs other people to do it, right?
Yes.
So being independent, I don't have those other people. And then there's record companies and powerful, what do you call it, deals? When
a 360 deal or whatever.
Yeah,
cover everything.
You're doing Nike and you're doing that. Hi, this is the best cream cheese
endorsement.
I ever had. Man Parrish says, it's good. You know what I mean? I don't have those sort of things. But I have something deeper. I have credibility. I have, when sounds change, Madonna is fighting to keep relevant, and it's kind of sad at points. You know what I mean? She's 60. She's my age, 66 years old, and she's gyrating on stage, and it's like, Grandma, slow down. You know what I mean? My stuff will go a little longer. Because I'm not archiving. I'm just doing stuff, and I don't care about what's happening right now.
Right.
I'm looking at years and centuries. I'm not looking at making it all today. I have enough to get by.
With her, it's about the package. With you, it's about the product. 15 years ago, Harvard taught a marketing class based on Madonna.
No, totally. But that isn't relevant now. 10 years later, 15 years later.
You're going to outlast. You're more timeless.
Well, I'm not doing it to be timeless, but I'm also smart enough to know that I could go out and figure out a way to do, Post Malone production or whatever the fuck is happening now, or whatever's hip, whatever's happening. But I also know that's going to last 3 or 4 years.
Is the present time the happiest time in your life, or what would make it the
happiest time?
Well,
I just lost my... I'm gay, and my husband just dropped dead 3 weeks ago, and found out that he was supporting somebody on the side for 8 years, which I found out, and a week later my dog died. So it's not a great time right now, but I jokingly tell my friends I'm a strong black woman and I'll get through this. You know what I mean? Why this? I suddenly became a widow and fucking blew my fucking head up, but it's here for a reason. I don't know why, but I'm getting through it. I just upgraded from my Mac Pro to a Mac Studio. In the last couple of days, I'm copying over software. I'm moving forward. I went on Match.com talking to 2 or 3 people. I'm not sitting around waiting for the world to feel sorry for me. I have to move forward because no one's going to feel sorry for me, right? I got to move forward. So if that doesn't happen, it would be a pretty good time in my life because I'm in my own home. Finally, I own my own home. I'm in a place where I'm not distracted. I could do music. There isn't a rat race or a record company saying, we gave you a contract. You have to do. Where's your record? I put out 2 or 3 albums a year where record companies would be one album every year and a half because we can't promote it. You have to sit there and wait. I'm like, I'm not fucking waiting. I got shit I got to do. I got so much music in me and sound, and I want to do AI filmmaking because I believe a lot of that's going to be in the future. You see all that twisted shit on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, where somebody in their face melts and all that kind of stuff. I think that's amazing, and I'd love to take that creativity and do some whacked out shit so people can listen to my music. You know what I mean? I'm happy where I am career-wise. Listen, I'd like to play a stadium. Anybody out there want to finance? I mean, to get a video wall, it's $200,000 to rent them on tour. That's without the tour bus and the trucks and the rehearsals and the band and the hotels. And I did that with Village People for 6 years. I don't have that kind of money, and I'm not going to put my house up, to do it. But I'm happy where I'm career-wise. Good. Mentally, I'm getting clearer because I was in an abusive relationship, pedophile ring, and all that kind of shit. And I lived underground for so long. I went into trauma therapy, and the first thing the therapist said is, "What do you want?" And I said, "I just kind of want to come out of the darkness. I kind of want to play with everybody else in the sunlight. I just want to live." I'm 65 at the time, and I said, "Men die at 67 or 70. I could have 5 years, or I could have 40 years with genetic engineering left. Right. I kind of don't want to suffer anymore mentally because a lot of it is up here." You know what I mean? I just want to be free of the baggage so I can breathe and do work because I don't know how much longer I have to be here. I mean, I got a lot of time, but, that's where my focus is. So I'm happy where I am. Would I go through all the shit I went through again? If it's going to put me where I am now, I wouldn't like it, but yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I wouldn't be who I am now had I not been in child pedophile ring, had I not been abused by my mother, had I not, had people die in my arms, had I not survived AIDS. 28 of my friends died of AIDS, but I didn't. I'm HIV negative. How could I be? I was a man whore in every bathhouse and sex club and all that kind of stuff without condoms, yet I'm here and I'm negative. I mean, what the fuck? I'm here for a reason. You know what I mean? Whether that's ego or not, that's what's driving me.
Yeah, Stonewall Jackson famously said, "I'm as safe in battle as I am in bed." Then he died from friendly fire, of all things. I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to get between friendly fire. I'm not overcautious. Listen, I got as much more issues than Reader's Digest. You know what I mean? I'm a fucking mess, but it's that mess that makes me create. It's that mess that makes me do things. It's the drive. They take people that are mentally ill and they go into what used to be called insane asylums, and they would give them creative things to do, and it would calm them down, and some people would heal, but with outlets. They take creative people and they take away their creativity, and they start getting crazy and having panic and thoughts and anger and all that kind of stuff. So the music is definitely working on some shit. Yeah, meet any psychologist, ask them, have you cured any of your patients? They'll all say no.
Nope. But it's not about curing. See, that was the thing. I was always afraid of therapy, and I always thought, someone's going to give me some bullshit. It's about management.
Yes. There's that thing with comedians where they don't want to go see psychologists because they don't want to take away.
Well, that's what makes comedy. Comedy is from pain. You know what I mean? Most good comedians have been really badly hurt.
What about you, though?
If I didn't do music, it would be I'd do stand-up comedy.
But are you afraid? It sounds terrible. Are you afraid to heal too much?
I peeled back the onion really bad and saw some ugly shit in my life that happened. But to me, I don't know about you, anybody else, but I had to face it because it helped me understand why I have panic, why I got depressed. I'm not saying I don't have it anymore. I mean, like I said, my husband dropped dead, on a train platform in New York, and I had panic attacks for the next 2 weeks. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I got to get out of here. The walls are closing in. But I also understand that's normal for what I went through, right? So I learned a lot about myself and my brain. A lot of that stuff, the brain works in a very interesting way. If everybody was schizophrenic, this world would fall apart. So the brain doesn't heal itself quickly. The brain heals itself slowly, because otherwise we would all be schizophrenic and there'd be a lot of confusion going on, right? So if you're trying to change your thinking, or you're trying to change something inside of your head that's off, it takes time, because that's how the brain is genetically wired, right? So if you have anxiety or panic or cognitive behavior therapy or whatever the fuck you're doing, you can't go to therapy for 2 weeks and you're going to be cured, right? But you can come to terms with it. You could see triggers, you could see signs, and it becomes management. And it's like Stockholm Syndrome is the best thing. If you don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is out there, people get kidnapped, and they're kidnapped for so long they start sympathizing with the people that kidnap with them, because the neurons in your brain actually get rewired and your thinking changes, right? So if you have a neuroses, you have a fear, you have an anxiety, your brain had wired in a certain way. You're going to need weeks to genetically change the pathways of thinking by thinking and repetitive thinking in a better direction, and your brain changes. When you're under stress, it might reprogram that. It'll take weeks and months, and then suddenly you're back there again. But if you see these and you understand how that works, you can avoid situations. You could stop panic attacks. You could stop anxiety. You could stop depression. You could stop self-doubt. My mother told me I was the angel of death at 8 years old. And anytime somebody died in the world, it was my fault.
My
right?
word.
Yeah, well, but it's the shit. It happened. So for a long time, I flipped out when people died. I knew I didn't do it, but I thought maybe I did. You know what I mean? Because my brain was rewired for 5 or 6 years, and my mother telling me that. So I know she's crazy, but what if it's true? And then you start having self-doubt and low self-worth and, all that kind of stuff. But to undo that, it's hard to go, well, she was crazy. And you go, oh, okay, never mind. It doesn't work that way. Your brain has to rewire its thinking so you don't believe it, right? So I've done a lot of work here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Well, it is what it is,
No, you're very much in control of yourself, and I'm
not. But no. The further you go here, the further you go there. So look, I think I'm not into the Bible, but the Bible says Adam and Eve, they were in bliss and they eat the apple, and all of a sudden things go fucked up.
But God said if I eat it, I'll die.
Right.
The more you know, the more you see.
Right.
The more you see, the more you think. The more you think, the more in trouble you're going to get. And if you're a creative person and you don't have a creative outlet, you're in trouble. Because your brain will find things to do, and a lot of times it'll turn in on itself. I have to be creative, otherwise I'm in trouble.
Speaking of the Bible, Matthew 6:19-24, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The eye is also the lamp of the body, for if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? So, just like karma.
I can see that. You look at look. I'm a street kid. I had to survive, or I got raped, or I starved, or I got shot, or stabbed. Right? I grew up on the streets of New York City in the 70s, and all that. I can look in people's eyes, and you can tell whether somebody's good or bad. It's that
interesting.
If you grew up in the street and you walk down the block, I better cross the street because I got a vibe over there. It's a vibe. What they're talking about is that vibe that you get from people. Either you're looking at them and you see the vibe in their eyes, or you're sensing it from further away. That person's dark. Let me go over here and avoid that. Or you meet somebody and that one person in the room is just fucking irritated, rubbing you in the wrong way. That's what that stuff is.
Are you sensitive to that? Do you have
I can look at people. See, this is what I say. You see, the more you work on yourself, the more you see. Do you want that burden on yourself? And some people know, I just want to get through this and die, and it'll be done with. But I could walk down the street and that person is depressed. oh my God, that person's got cancer. Yeah, and it's always true. Or that person's in a bad relationship, or that person's going to hurt themselves, or that person's really happy, or that person's lying to themselves and think they're happy. You see things, and it becomes painful.
Right.
But what's better being, there's ignorance is bliss. It's true. What time is it to eat? I got to take a shit. I got to jerk off and go to sleep. There's a blessing in that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of, let's eat, and on the way to the restaurant, you see a homeless person. I cry. I can't take it. I don't understand how somebody could. I'm a Taurus, I'm old school hippie. So I'm a Taurus. How could you not have a home? Tauruses have homes. How could you not have a place, even if it's rented or a room or a shack? How could you not have a home? It makes me cry. But most people don't see that. They see a homeless person. Oh, they're homeless. All right. Anyway, what time is dinner? And I'm going, but wait a minute.
Right.
So the more you see, the more you delve, the more you see.
Well, just like with karma, you're trying to build up good karma. In the Christian sense, laying up for yourself treasure on
Ten
heaven.
Commandments and religion, and thou shalt not, and thou shalt. It's all the same shit.
Right.
It's in Buddhism. It's in Muhammad. It's in all different religions. It all boils down Kabbalah. It boils down to the same basic stuff.
Right. Yeah. Along with ignorance, which does come with bliss, should also be how do you say, faith in what you do, faith to believe even what you don't know.
Why was there Bible and why was there God watching you? Behave yourself. Because in the old days, when you were living in a mud hut, outside of Egypt or Israel, wherever it was, there were no police forces. Right. So don't masturbate. Don't kill your wife. Don't fuck a goat because God is watching you.
Right.
It's the best control system to keep people control is a wrong word. It's the best reference to keep people healthy and on track. Why was there halal and kosher? Because we didn't have refrigeration. And certain combinations of food would rot in your gut a lot quicker and get you sick. That's why Bible had these things, because it was the book.
The concept of integralism, which is to model the laws of a land after religious precepts. Like the Bible.
A lot of it became control situations because priests, rabbis, and shamans suddenly realized that they can control the whole fucking place. They started plugging in their own little things and adding side things to it. You know what I mean?
Especially when there's a language barrier. When it was like Latin, and then
the best thing you could do is study Christianity, Judaism, Muslims. You study Buddhism and Kabbalah and some shaman shit, and you're going to realize that. This is connecting thread through all this stuff. And you can just read one or two books or follow some YouTube channels, and suddenly you're going to realize there's a lot of stuff that's universal.
Here's a controversial, a fun question. It seems there's a growing democratization of spreading technology as time goes on, meaning as technology increases, more and more people are able to use it, not just like the elite.
That's democratization.
So the controversial question is, could there ever be a downside where it's people get...
So here's my answer to that. Like I said, when I was doing synthesizer, I was going to put orchestras out of business, and everybody in the orchestra suddenly became record producers and could do everything else. Before there was printed word, stuff was printed in the book, and the devil was printing books, because all of a sudden intelligence and information, the Gutenberg press changed everything, right? The scholars were people that had books, and then they made them public. Just like we have code, and it's now open source code, and the people that wrote the code freaked out because they didn't own it anymore. Then there was the horse and carriage. If you went in a car or an airplane, you went over 25 miles an hour, you would black out because it didn't understand.
What? Really?
Yeah, it was like 25 or 30 miles an hour. You weren't going to go that fast because you would go unconscious.
Okay, to your point, I used to work, I'm here in Detroit, in one of the original independent audio manufacturers that like one of the first ones, And unfortunately, in my opinion, we had a lot of illegal workers because it took jobs from the locals, but
politics destroyed Detroit.
Yeah.
So it was bad. So a lot from South and Central America, and so here's the thing. A lot of them had to be carpool to work. Why? The fastest vehicle they ever knew their whole life was a mule. And going on the freeway, it's like death grip to them. They can't. Yeah.
Go take a drive from what do you call it? The Amazon. They see a plane that goes across. It's the gods.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When it's just a fucking plane of a couple of yabos trying to get some insect samples. You know what I mean?
The cargo.
Yeah.
I was at the end of the industrial age and the very beginning of the information age, and then the information age became, internet and all that kind of stuff. And now we're talking about spatial internet because of all the headsets. The spatial web is a new thing that's quietly developing.
What's
when
that?
I got on when I first, it's a 3D web with your glasses. When you want to visit a place and what's the Eiffel Tower, you can actually see it in 3D and go up in it and all that kind of stuff. But it's web pages that'll serve that to your device, right?
Wow.
So is that going to bring down society and it's the devil's work? No, you're becoming more intelligent. When I used to first get on the internet, the very first times I got on the internet, I had an Apple IIc computer.
This is the new Apple IIc,
which Steve Jobs, I think, was still in his garage, right, in Palo Alto or wherever he was, California, up to San Francisco. And I would have a 16K modem, and I would take the cradle of my phone and put it in the modem, and I'd go on to a place called CompuServe, and they served web pages. And they don't have CompuServe, but you had text, and the text would be, I went to Antarctica and I saw and then the whale was inverted black on white, and you click on the word whale and it would take you to another page that described what a whale was, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible, look at this technology, right? And then people had BBS's, bulletin board systems, in their house because they were developing quicker than CompuServe was, and they would get a bunch of pictures, digitize them, and put them on a server. And of course, it was a bunch of dudes, so half of them were titty girls or porn or whatever. And you download your picture, and it'd take 45 minutes to download a small JPEG, and it would be the wrong picture. Or my sister would pick up the phone to call her friend and break the connection, and I had to go back and start this all up all over again. I'm online, don't touch the phone. No, I gotta call my friend. Don't touch the phone. You know what I mean? And she'd purposely do it to break the connection. So, well, then I'm gonna call my friend, you can get back on later. So all that was early scandalous. You're crazy, you don't know what you're doing. Now, your phone has the web. My watch has the web. My AR connected glasses are web-based. My fucking stove, I can program in my washing machine through an app on my phone. What did it do? It didn't make us, people say it's making us dumber. I think what it does, you could be a programmer right now. And I said 5 years ago, I would have said, what's the best job to do? Be a programmer. ChatGPT is doing that for you.
Right.
It's programming. But who's running ChatGPT? Now your mind is free. Instead of programming, make me an iPhone program that helps blind people see with a ping sound, and do it. And now you could do that using your Bluetooth or something, or your vision glasses. I have the Meta glasses with the camera, and there's something called Be My Eyes. And if you're blind, it'll tell you. You're walking down the street. To the left 300 feet, there's a pole. Move over a little to the left. Okay, now you're fine. You're coming near a curb. Stop. I'll watch to see when the light is green. Beep. Okay, the light is green. I have a Tesla, self-driving Tesla. I don't have to touch the steering wheel. It sees children, cones, garbage cans, motorcycles, trucks. It sees dividers in the road. We stop at intersections, and it's using vision, not radar, to see. And one of the things, we talked to Elon Musk, and I know he's very controversial now. I got it before. Fuck you if you're stupid and you're falling into all that stuff. Well, whatever. They said, some guy, he said, I love that my Tesla all of a sudden I go into 35 mile an hour zone, and the speed goes 35, and then when it suddenly says 50, it speeds up again. He goes, we didn't program that. You go, what do you mean you didn't program it? He goes, the computer was so smart, it saw a square box with 35 and realized there was 35 on the speedometer and associated that with speed limit. It wrote the code, sent it up to the hive, and it automatically went down to all the cars across America and around the world as an upgrade. Yeah, but that scares people.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
the other side of it is, it's great. Now people are like, AI is going to take over and the robots and, Terminator. You know what I say?
What?
Pull the fucking plug.
Let it happen.
Pull the plug. Pull the plug. No.
Stop it.
Pull the electric plug. Oh, well, they're going to control the grid. Well, then take a fucking chainsaw, a sawzall, and cut the fucking power cord, because without power, it can't do anything.
It would take bombing data centers to cut it off, and you'd have to know where they were.
Data centers, and we have problems now with storage, but they now have holographic storage where you can store, what's after petabytes? Is after terabytes?
Really?
You can store all that on your finger, and it's in 3 dimensions. If that breaks, it's a hologram, and you can piece together all that information again, which means storage is now going to become infinite.
My word.
But where does your Apple or your Google Photos go? And if you're doing Apple and Google Photos, what about the 300 million people in the U.S. and the billions around the world that are all doing cloud storage? Where does that go?
I don't trust the cloud because the first major phone that used it, the Sidekick, their cloud system went down permanently, wasn't back up, and they told all their customers, sorry, we lost everything, there's no backup. And ever since then,
but the first bits of electricity in New York were DC, not AC, and people got electrocuted.
There you go. That's a good point.
I can find all kinds of stories like that.
You were born too late to explore the world and too early to explore the stars, but what were you born just in time for?
I came in my generation is weird because a lot of the younger generation hates it because we were the generation of excess and wanted too much and money and cars, and that's what drove us. But the other side of it is, I could look back and I could see the industrial age and manufacturing, Detroit, all that kind of stuff, and I could look forward and see men walking on the moon and internet and technology. So I came in right at the perfect point where I have a point of reference of what it was like and where it's going. And people born now, they don't have that back look.
Right.
And as an old fuck, I can tell you it's way better now than it was before because we have more knowledge. Of course there's going to be fake news. Of course there's going to be political bias. But I don't do Fox or CNN or whatever. I mean, I do because I want to know what both sides are saying, but there's an app I use called Grounded, and it takes things from everywhere and lets you know if it's left or right or whether it's true or not. And I want to know what's not true because I want to know what they're feeding people. I want to know what's true because I want to know what's going on. But there's also fucking news cycles.
Right.
Trump is Hitler and Biden is mentally ill. But
logical fallacies.
I've been around since the 7th Vietnam War, and real LSD, and window painting, wars, and it's all fucking news. Listen, the sky, Chicken Little, the sky has been falling ever since Adam and Eve. Somehow or another, you're not that important in the universe with your little speck of fucking life that you have. You just want some attention. Get a fucking helmet, Buttercup. Life is tough. You know what I mean?
Cassandra's a liar. So, speaking of the Industrial Revolution, up and until then, it was the common worldwide, especially in the West, I suppose, assumption that the greatest accomplishments in all of mankind were in the past. But once but then it reversed. Once the Industrial Revolution happened, then there began the concept that the best is yet ahead of us.
You don't create stuff, you discover stuff. I think there's a general knowledge is out there. I didn't create my kind of music. It came through me. You could talk to anybody who's had any major success, and you're just a vessel for something that needs to be here, right? Yeah. And that's not spiritual or religious. It's just
it's philosophical because Plato.
But it's more than philosophical. It's also kinetic and physics. The only difference between you and the chair that you're sitting on and the ground, because their atoms, your atoms, and quarks and neutrinos and all that kind of stuff, is the floor happens to be a little more dense than you, otherwise you'd fall through. But the basis of what you're made of, I'm made of, the floor is made of, the iPad or the computer that you're looking at this on the screen, it's energy in different forms and densities that we visualize as objects.
Plato believed that we don't learn, we remember. Are you the same thing? Like
no, I don't know. So Man Parrish says, not remember but discover.
Like it's always it's there. It's just like we gotta.
Yeah, but he's saying remember. I'm saying discover.
Okay. Uncover what was covered.
Uncover is another word too. Uncover or discover. I like that.
Speaking of the politics, everything going on. Me personally, I would consider. Well, actually, now with everything, it might change. But I would consider moving to Poland or Hungary if things here really went south.
And I'd say Chicken Little. The sky's been falling since Adam and Eve. A couple of months later it'll be different, and a couple of months after that it'll be that. Listen, I've seen far worse than this. I was in East Germany when it was communist. I was in Cuba, when it is communist. I was in East Berlin, went through Checkpoint Charlie through the wall, and I saw the other side. Wow. I mean, I've traveled everywhere from Iceland to Australia, from Asia, all throughout Europe, different governments. When Europe had that passports that go from country to country through passport controls, you know what I mean? I've seen shit. I've heard shit. Wow. I remember communist Russia.
Wow.
And when I was a kid, when I was in 4th grade, we were going to get bombed by nuclear bombs, and they told us, go under your wooden desk and go like this to shield yourself from the nuclear blast. Right. But that's what it was. So Chicken Little, the sky's been falling. If you watch TV, you should know what's going on, but you got to go, listen, the world is much bigger and stronger than any of these fucking ego assholes. A lot of them are truthful. A lot of them are just wannabe celebrities trying to get attention.
There you go.
And it's hard to figure it out. But here's what I say. If you're starting to get upset, then you've had too much. If you drank too much milk and you're lactose intolerant, stop drinking milk. If you eat too many beans and you're farting and you have diarrhea, stop eating the fucking beans and let your system calm down, and then approach it in a few days. The weird thing is if you turn the TV off for a few days, you kind of feel better. Oh, I got to turn it on. Are we going to go to war?
Smart.
Are we going to die? Well, therapist told me something really, really interesting. Because I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. Is there somebody standing in front of you with a gun right now? No. Is there a train going to run you over? No. Is a noose around your neck and they're going to kick the thing out and you're going to die? No. Are you lying on a gurney where you're being put to death? No. Is there an animal attacking you? No. Shut the fuck up.
Right. Well, I want to ask you a novel question.
Well, I want to ask you to check the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you, smart man.
Start.
Okay. Listen,
I've been laid, relayed, parlayed, and souffled.
Well, so much good I can say to and about you.
Yeah, but so much suffering came out of it too. So, with the good comes the bad. But that means someone said to me something really, really interesting. When I'll wait till you're recording and I'll put it on there.
You're a treasure.
Yes.
It's one more minute for it to transfer.
It's just like what's her name? Dame. What's her name? The English.
Maggie.
The James Bond. The English woman who speaks like this. What's her name?
Maggie something. Dame Maggie Smith.
No. What the fuck is her name? Anyway, she's a national treasure. And I said, just like her, I'm a national treasure too. Hello?
That's Samantha Bond. M.
James Bond M.
Judi Dench.
Dame
Judi
Dench.
Like Dame Judi Dench. I'm Dame Man Parrish. You know what I mean? Hello? National treasure. Hello? Are we up and running?
In a second and... Now, nice.
Yes.
We are ready.
So I want to say something very, very interesting. This freaked me out, but it was true. Like I said, I just lost my other half, and I was crying and freaking out in panic attacks. Thank you. and I didn't know what's going to happen in the future. And I said, I'm really going through it. And my friend said, I'm glad you're going through it. And I said, you cruel motherfucker,
Right.
how could you, how dare you? He goes, no, it means your life is working. And I said, what do you mean my life is working? I'm suddenly all alone. Ah! He said, no. He said, your life is working because you're realizing it, you're accepting it, you're acknowledging it, and you're going through it instead of having it handicap you. The fact that you're here and you're present and you're thinking about it and it's upsetting you, you're working your way through it. And that means your life is working. And I went, oh my God, he's right.
Well, speaking of you living to 100, I could easily see you living to 200 and not getting everything that you would want and need to get done. You seem like there's a lot to you, and particularly beneath the surface that others can't see.
Hey, I could live to 200 as long as there's a glory hole in my neighborhood. I'll be fine. I'm kidding.
I could say okay. All right.
Okay, shut off here.
Oh, sorry,
no, when you get my age, it's not about boners. It's dirty old men. It's all in your head. It's all in your head, and then you go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm more tired. Let me just go to sleep. You know what I mean? So, but sex is interesting because it's something that drives you when you're younger. But when you get older, that drive is there. But been there, done that. You know, done so much of that, and now it's more of a thought. And you know, people my age have sex, or you rub one out, or whatever. You have sex, but it's not a drive. It's more of a mental thing. It's like you don't miss it. You're like, oh, let me see that ass, baby. It's like, okay, now what? I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat. You know what I mean? Whereas when you're 20 years old, let me see that. Oh, I gotta fuck it. You know, it's sexuality and all that stuff still is relevant, but it changes from physical to mental in a way, and it's just as strong. Like porno. Sorry, like fucking porno.
Like a sapiosexual or demisexual, whether feeling
No,
or ideas.
I, my sexuality hasn't changed. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not been there and done that. It's not a jaded thing. It's sort of like, yeah, that's a hot piece of ass. You know what I mean? And yeah, let me see, baby. All right, you want to do something? Well, I got to take a nap. It changes. You know, you still have it, but it's more like as a kid, I would have been up at 5 o'clock in the morning chasing a piece of ass. As a 67-year-old, you know, a couple of text messages and this and that, and you want to get together. Well, I'm a little tired. Let's talk tomorrow.
Right.
So doesn't mean I'm not getting off. I'm just not chasing it like I used to, because when you get older, it's less important. Come here, monkey.
Does that reflect in your art at all? Does your art?
No. Because this is Monkey. He's a good.
Hello, Monkey.
Say hello.
Hello.
You like being okay? You smiling? You like little ham? You like to be on camera?
Yes.
Yeah. Does it reflect in my art? No. I still have energy in my art. My music was never fully sexual. Some people do sexual music, and when they're no,
That's a great quote.
No, it's true, because a lot of people talk about, you know, my dick and that pussy, and
you're right.
I'm gonna fuck you till you see stars and all that kind of stuff. My music was never really that, because I was not sexually frustrated, and I didn't have to put it in my music. I always had outlets. I was a gay man living in New York City, where if I came to visit you at 12 o'clock, I'd leave my house at 10 and do 2 or 3 glory holes on the way to meeting you, and maybe be 20 minutes late. And why were you late? Oh, I had to wait online at a glory hole at a restroom on the subway. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how crazy sex was back in those days.
Now, was that getting or giving?
Mostly getting, but like my friends say, are you the man or are you the woman? I'm neither. I'm just sexual, and if I had to have a title, I was never a bottom. I was a top, but it wasn't because I'm not a woman or a man. It's just like, I'm not into getting fucked, to be very crude and honest about it. But it was never. I had a lot of sexual freedom and choices living in New York pre-AIDS. Everybody fucked up. I had friends that I didn't know their name until after I had sex with them, because that's how you met friends. And people that you'd fool around and leave and go, that was great. By the way, what's your name? You know what I mean? I mean, it was like that because it was sex for sex. Women have a hard time with that. Men men can separate sex from love a lot easier than women can. So when you're in a room full of guys and the lights are low, there's going to be groping and all kinds of crazy shit pre-AIDS that was going on. So my sexuality was never, I didn't care who knew I was gay, but unlike people today, I don't have to walk around like this to prove a fact. In fact, I get mad at a lot of people today, and I'm like, you little fucking faggots. I've been working for you from 14 to 23. I was in gay pride parades for gay people, black. If you were black and had a white husband or wife, you could get fired. You could get thrown out of your residence and stuff. I marched for gay and black and straight and all kinds of rights and all that shit. And I marched so everybody could be even and equal. I'm gay. I'm not a protected species, and I don't like that because it's turning people off that don't understand what gay is and putting us all in a category. Gay people don't have trans friends. Trans friends don't have lesbian friends. Lesbian friends don't have bisexual friends. They're all different communities. And it's the straight people that have put us into the LGBTQ plus thing, made it a political thing because they're not getting votes, and they figure, well, blacks and Spanish are underprivileged. Gays are underprivileged too. Let's fucking stir up shit with that so they'll vote for us. But a lot of gay people are very angry at that. And I'm like, you got to stop this shit because we marched and we made things cool and easy, so you can have a normal life. And a lot of people are fucking it up. Now I understand the modern things where, people are being targeted and there's a lot of rumors that, where were the concentration camps, right? Wasn't Trump going to get in? There were going to be concentration camps and they're going to throw gay people in. Where are the concentration camps? My friend came to Florida and she was doing an art exhibit in Miami. I said, did you see when you landed? She goes, what? I said, the concentration camps next to the airport. Be careful, don't say gay. They'll throw you in a concentration camp, But the whole don't say gay thing in Florida wasn't don't say gay. If you look at the legislature, it says they didn't want to teach mommy has a penis and so does daddy. I have two dads, to 3-year-olds. I mean, third grade, below third grade. After third grade, they figured you were old enough to deal with it. They didn't want to teach kindergarten kids drag queen story hour. I'm gay. I'm not a Republican, but I don't think kids should do that because I suffered in a pedophile ring. I know that a mind that young, from personal experience, does not have the neurons to understand these things, and it creates confusion.
What is a proper age? The age of innocence.
Well, my friend, and she may or may not be listening, had a daughter who transed at 12. And she said, Sally is Sam, or whatever the kid's name was. And she said, what should I do? I said, let him, her, whatever she wants to identify it, grow up a little longer, make sure it's not, a lot of people are sexually confused. I didn't know if I was gay or straight. Make sure it's not that. Make sure they're not gay and they don't have to transition to a woman because they like men. There is something out there. There's gay, there's lesbian, women like women, men like men, there's bisexuals. There are people that are born in the wrong body. I think the egg is split wrong, and their spirits, there are men born in women's bodies. I've met people like that are truly the other way. But now any kind of sexual confusion is immediately you're trans. And I didn't talk to her for a year, and I said, how's Sam doing? Samantha, what is Sam doing? She says, oh, she transitioned. I said, wait a minute, how old is she? She's 13. I said, you cut off your daughter's breast at 13 years old? Yeah, well, she knew who she was. And I said, what if she didn't? What if she was just confused? Is that fair to her? Now she's on hormones and things that are going to give her cancer. I have a friend who's 60 years old. She wipes testosterone all over her body. She puts on a mustache when she wants to be trans and peels it off when she wants to get fucked by guys. And I said, you're not trans, you're fake. And you're smearing testosterone all over your body, and it's made you angry and nasty and aggressive. And I said, if a 65-year-old woman who's putting testosterone on her body, you're going to have cancer. Because there's a reason why your body lowers your testosterone and estrogen at a certain age, because your genes are bad and you shouldn't reproduce at 70 years old. You have faulty DNA.
And
the world takes the body takes care. What do you call it? What do they call it? Evolution takes care of that. You know what I mean? Takes care of that. So a lot of this shit is political. It's bullshit. A lot of it is valid. I don't want to see people suffering. But just because you may be straight or maybe gay or bisexual doesn't automatically mean you're trans. You have to find out who you are. And then if you are trans, then you got to get it done. You have to live who you are.
Right.
But automatically, my child doesn't know if he's gay or straight. He's trans. Like, what if he's just confused right now and trying to figure out he's trans? No. And it's straight people that are doing that, and these gay people are buying into it. I'm gay. I've been gay my whole life. My friends, oh, you hang out in straight clubs and go on a straight cruise? I'm like, the whole idea was we weren't supposed to be different. We were supposed to be the same as you, and everybody would calm down and realize, oh, my uncle's gay, my friend's gay, my brother's gay. They're just like me. Now all of a sudden it's a protected species, and straight people are having arguments over it. I don't tell black people how to live and what to do. I have no right to do that. I don't have a right to tell straight people what to do. Because I'm gay and I'm in a different experience in my world. Why are they telling me and my people what to do? So it's very... People are going to get angry right away, and he's anti-trans and all that. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? The reality is you need to figure out who you are and then make a decision, not have somebody else make a decision for you. And a lot of the older gays are quiet in the closet, but they're angry at this because they see these young gay kids being used for political things. When I was in a pedophile ring, I was 14 years old. I wasn't sure if I was gay, but I said, oh my God, how wonderful this is. Older gay men pick up younger gay boys and they take them under their wing until they're old enough to move out on their own. No, they were pedophiles.
Right.
And nobody protected me from that shit. When you have a 12-year-old boy taking hormone blocking things, fucking them up, I think that's a crime.
Right.
Let them mature sexually and figure out what's going on. And at 18, mom, dad, or 21, I'm born in the wrong body. You're going to know it. That child was weird. There was something wrong. You know, they were dressing in boys' clothes, or they would. You looked at him, but he was feminine. You looked at her, and she was masculine and acted like a boy. Even that could be a lesbian or gay. There are trans people, but not everybody is trans right away. And the word trans is being bastardized. If you're bisexual, you're trans. If you're curious whether you're gay or straight, you're trans. No, you're not. Trans is a very specific thing.
There's a new word, relatively new, speaking of transhumanism. Now, instead of going from gender...
And there's also a houselessness instead of homo...
No. This is different. I'm saying what this is cybernetics, is the linking of man and machine, transhumanism, like Neuralink,
Neuralink and all that kind of stuff. I love it.
So, because how do you say it?
Matrix.
Because you mentioned before, like when the horse and buggy came around, and the smith no longer had a job, now was the mechanic, and there was like a period of a few years of adjustment.
This transition.
And so it seems like I don't want to be unduly mean, but like it's sort of like a fad right now with the trans thing, and so
it's not a fad. It's I think it's an awakening to people that never heard of it before, are suddenly realizing that there are more than straight or gay or bi, that there is something else. You know, I knew who hermaphrodite. But was the hermaphrodite is a penis and a vagina?
Right.
But was it just that it was an overlarge clit that looked like a penis, and it wasn't a hermaphrodite? But they were classified that, and they were fucked up. A lot of the original drag queens that were trans were fucked up because they didn't have a label, and a lot of the drag queens were angry because they were abused by society. Now they're a protected species and they can have life, but it doesn't mean you have to steamroll somebody because of who you are. Because I don't care if you're black, white, gay, or whatever, you don't have a right to be any different or more powerful or more protected than anybody else. I'm sorry. If you don't like that, go fuck yourself.
Right.
We are all equal, whether you like it or not, because you don't get to decide that.
Is there any wisdom to take from rightly handling the current trans situation to apply it to the transhumanism situation to avoid pitfalls?
It's all change. It's awakening and change. Gay people knew about trans, for a long time. Straight people are suddenly becoming aware of it. What do you mean there's people that are maybe in the wrong body? Yes, honey, we knew about that for the last 30, 40 years, and we've been screaming about it, and you'd be calling them drag queens. Sorry, dear. Now you woke up. You want to know the real woke? That's woke. You suddenly woke up and realized, you mean somebody could be a female in a male's body? Yes, we've been saying this for 100 years, but it's not everybody who's gay or is gender confused. Gender confused could be bisexual. There's more than gay. The LGBTQ. I'm more queer than gay because I don't not an associate. I'm not into drag lifestyle and partying and drugs and all that kind of stuff. That's great. That's okay. Nothing wrong. I'm more queer because I don't fit. I like guys, but I kind of don't fit in, and women don't freak me out. You know what I mean? I call it the 50 Shades of Grey. I call it 50 Shades of Gay. You know what I mean? Like somebody may be 99% straight, and they look at a porn. That guy's hot with a big dick, but I'm looking at I'm looking at the girl. I'm looking at the girl. You know what I mean? There's a we call it a rainbow. There's a rainbow there, and they're trying to rubber stamp everything and make it one way because they can't understand that rainbow. They can't understand the 50 Shades of Gay or gray or sexuality. I worked in the fetish club when I had no money, and I saw head trips and fetish things that blew my mind, and I realized that people's sexuality are very varied. I can tell you I had sex with more straight men than gay men ever in my life.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I wasn't a threat when somebody wanted to experiment.
Right.
Now I was a pretty boy back then, so it was easy for them to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think people are evolving, society's evolving, and they're realizing there's more than missionary position and man and woman. There are other things there. It started with, gay marriage and gay acceptance, but when they went down the gay rabbit hole, what do you mean trans? What do you mean queer? What do you mean, polyamorous, trisexual, bisexual? I'm like, it's been there. We've been screaming about this, but welcome to the party, bitches.
I think it's funny. You're a music icon. We're talking, but I mean, it's a good topic of conversation. But
my goal is not just music. I give a little bit. So if I can provide my story may be totally infuriating to people, and people may have shut this off already. And if you're still here, great.
You're fascinating.
But no. What I'm saying is, this is my view.
Yes.
If it's not your view, okay.
Well,
but I'm here to show how I think and how I feel.
Right.
And if it doesn't work for you, that's okay.
Yeah.
I've lived long enough that hopefully I could spread some wisdom, or maybe one or two of things I'm going to say will help somebody. That's my goal when I do interviews and I write my book and I do my music. I need attention so people could hear what I have to say.
Taking this topic a little further, because you already said you're in favor of, by hook or by crook, if science can get me to 100, I'm for it. And you are someone who you've already been born. But for those yet to be born, namely gene editing, are you in favor of that? Or is that an unfair thing that the elites...
Well, it's unfair because was I in favor of synthesizers if it's going to take away string orchestras? Is gene editing going to make a master race by some evil...
elite group,
Adolf Hitler making a perfect race. Yeah, synthesizers could have wiped out orchestras. Yeah, but I'm using the same thing because I want to perspective. Does gene editing let you live to 100? Yeah, but are the genes going to rebel because they're not made to do that? And you're going to have cancer and you're going to have cancer at 90 to 100 because you weren't meant to push that gas pedal all the way down to the floor because now the engine is overheating.
So
did you hear what I just said? You're
overheating the
engine. I'll say it again.
I'm sorry.
I said if you're supposed to live to 100 with gene editing, do you have cancer from 80 or 90 to 100 because you weren't supposed to push your foot on the pedal that far and burn the engine out? Now the engine's running too hot, past its expiration date, and it's getting sick. So you could live to 100, but are you living to 100 healthy? Or you're living to 100 because you're taking coke up your nose and staying awake all the time and you live to 100? Those are two different things. I don't mean literally, I mean figuratively.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Well, when you get old, the quality of life changes and you learn to adjust to it. And the people that don't learn to get old die. I'm learning to get old. I need double knee replacement.
I'm sorry.
So if I need a wheelchair at the supermarket to keep my knees so I'm not in bed for the next 2 days so I'm active, I'll do it and I don't give a fuck.
I hope you get a great doctor, great surgeon.
I got an appointment, but it's more than that. It's more than a doctor. It's realizing certain things and not pushing it past those envelopes or getting it fixed so you can push past those envelopes and continue.
Yeah, so pre and post birth, edit at your leisure. You're for it.
Post birth is great because you have a choice. Pre birth,
That's a great
great point.
That's a great point.
And does it only happen if you're 18 or 21?
Yeah.
Or pre-birth, it's like you could then say, well, is that your lot in life, and that's what you're here for? And you were born into this life because you predisposed to be, half Terminator and half human because that's what you wanted from the other side as spirit to come in. There's a million answers for this.
Yeah.
And finally, the biggest answer is, who the fuck knows?
Cross the bridge when we get to it.
Well, who the fuck knows?
Right.
And maybe it's all meant to be because it's here and it manifests itself. That's where you start to get when you get older.
I believe in predestination.
Why is a murderer a murderer? A murderer believes he's doing something good by killing somebody because he's stopping something bad from happening in the world. But society says, no, you killed that child, you killed that person. But the person doing the murder is, that person has to die because they can't be here because they're threatening me and everybody else. Which perspective is right? Well, we tried to go with the social perspective because this person is killing people. But that person committing the murder is going, this person can't live, they're threatening me and they're threatening society and the dog and God and whoever said kill him, and I'm killing them. But to the person doing it, he's doing the right thing. The person killing somebody for food is, I've got to survive and feed my kids. This person has food or money and I got to feed my kids. I have to kill them or hurt them or beat them up. So is that evil? It's evil socially, but is it evil from the person doing it when they're trying to survive? There are people that are wired wrong.
Yeah.
Charles Manson that have mental illness and can't think straight and think down these paths and hurt.
Well, the CIA drugged him, so there's that.
Well, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But while he's drugged, he's doing what he thinks is right. I don't think people are bad. I think people are either wired wrong or they're against society. If we didn't have society and that happened out in the desert with Cain and Abel and a couple of, caveman clubs knocking somebody on the head, there wouldn't be any issue with this. He killed the deer. I'm weak. I can't kill the deer. Let me club him over the head, and then I could eat the deer, and my whole family could eat the deer, and we survive another day.
Right.
That changes your that changes your perspective when you're watching news and when you're watching things. Your perspective and what you see changes.
Do you believe that mankind is inherently good?
Absolutely, because we would have killed ourselves, back in the Stone Age. We wouldn't have survived. We would have burnt ourselves out. We would have killed each other.
It's funny you mentioned Cain and Abel.
Yesterday, Trump bombed Iraq.
Iran.
Bumped Iran, right? So it's a bad thing because he's using the power of the United States as bullies to kill people in Iran. It's a good thing because he stopped a nuclear bomb from going off somewhere around the world. There's two different perspectives, and they're both correct.
Is Iran too weak and rational to do something crazy? And if so, is that a good assumption to base foreign policy on?
Well, they're showing that if it's true, a lot of it's true. They've been killing Americans since the 80s with, bombings of, military bases and all these different things going on, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, up to recently. So they're not a passive country like India. What's a Buddhist country? I don't know. Some Buddhist passive.
Oh no, Buddhists aren't always passive.
It's not Tibet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They deserve to die. Probably not, because they believe that they should spread religious law, and by killing Americans in the Western evil society, they'll follow the faith of God and the world will be better. So whose perspective is the right perspective? Ours because they're killing people, or theirs because they kill people because they want you to follow the word of God? Well, if you're over there, they're doing the right thing. If you're over here, we're doing the right thing.
I want peace. I just want peace.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to get, and both sides get peace through bombing, and the other one gets the peace through killing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the result is those bad people will be away and we'll have peace. Everybody wants peace.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of corrupt leaders and a lot of good common people on all sides. On all sides, I think the majority don't want war, and a few corrupt.
Nobody wants war. Nobody wants war. You know what I mean? I mean, there are people that want war because they make money off
Yeah,
of it. Because
exactly.
they can charge $2 million for a toilet seat and $20 million for a bomb. You know, definitely.
Just the other day at the Van Gogh Museum, a rich person.
I saw it. The guy sat on the chair.
And all these rich person from Ukraine, you know, all this money that we send there and then gets, you know, pulled out.
Of course.
And they're selling, what is it, like a good portion, like 50 or more % of the munitions we send to them, to the drug cartels on our border, or selling back to them.
Dude, this has been going on since Adam and Eve.
You're right.
So
in Egypt, you know, the pharaohs kept the money from there was no Christians, the Jews at that time, and didn't give them food, and they went into the desert with nothing, as poor, and manna rained down from heaven. It's just showing this shit has been around forever. Chicken Little, the sky has been falling. Listen, it is a pendulum. If it swings too far in this direction, then it swings that direction until it finally comes back to center. This is too conservative, this is too liberal, and what's the other side of liberal? Conservatism. This is a pendulum that's been swinging back and forth like, you know, like a donkey dick for 1 million years. You know, I saw it swing back and forth with the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020s. It's this pendulum. And once you see the patterns, it doesn't freak you out.
Right.
Do we want the pendulum to swing? No. I don't want that pendulum to swing because people get hurt. But it's going to swing. Whether you like it or not, because otherwise everything would be boring. Nothing would ever happen. Everybody wants everything to be peace and right down the center. But it would collapse. There has to be dynamics. There has to be kinetics. There has to be movement. I didn't make those laws. That's physics. God, the universe made those laws. They're bigger than me. I can't change gravity. I can't change, you know, what do you call it? Planetary, you know, rotation. Yeah, but it's like on that kind of level. That pendulum is there and it swings, whether you fucking like it or not, because you're not important enough to change that.
So you believe whatever is.
Yes, because it wouldn't be here. Because the universe, forget about God. In physics, if it wasn't here, it wouldn't exist, because it has to serve a purpose, and there has to be an equal and opposite reaction to it to make it exist.
Thermodynamics, you know,
any kind of dynamics, quarks, all that shit. If it doesn't work, it disappears. It can't exist. You can't make energy, and you can't get rid of energy. You can only transform it, and everything is made from energy on an atomic level. It's electric. You know what I mean? All that stuff is like, you can't make it, you can only transform it, right? You go from human to dust, and that energy goes somewhere, and then, you know, if it's reincarnation, if it's wind, if it's you know, soil, whatever it is, you can't make and not make it. If it doesn't have a purpose here, it can't exist. You know, it's a funny thing in the Spider-Man movies and the Avengers or something. Something is so evil that it just disappears because it wasn't meant to be here. It crashes under its own weight and turns into dust and poof, it's gone away, and then the credits roll. You know what I mean? But there's a bit of truth behind that. That's why we like those movies, because these are age-old tales that went from tribes that are now turned into modern sci-fi things, but the basic story is the same, good against evil, and something exists that's so evil that it eventually collapses under its own weight because it can't support itself. So, yes, if it's here for a reason. Well, what about murderers? What about Nazis? What about, you know, tornadoes and all that kind of stuff? Well, you know, I live in a hurricane state, and everybody, hurricanes and hurricanes. Hurricanes are not land events. I'm sorry. They're ocean events that stir up the warm water from the lower ocean to the upper ocean and cool the oceans down so we have more regular temperature that happen to slam into land. But a hurricane is a water event.
Right.
If you look into these things, you'll find out why.
Right.
And your perspective changes, and what you look at changes.
So what was I going to say?
What color? What's my favorite color? And do I sleep naked? That's a joke question that people ask.
Let me just do my screen pause and do the screen thing here.
Let's finish up.
Okay. This will be the last segment then. And after I transfer this thing, we'll do the last segment. I'll ask you a few more questions, including the one you'll be the first person in the world in history to answer this question. You know, because you're a pioneer, I want to keep that, keep
History, wow. No pressure.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, when you hear the question, maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong. That someone else has answered before. But here, the file of the transcription is going to take a 3 minutes, it says.
All right.
And thank you for your patience. Thank you to
I'm a
everything.
technologist.
All of the above.
I synthesist, I'm a technologist. I understand. This doesn't bother me.
I'm beside. I don't have words to say how kind you are.
Dude, I'm just me. You know what I mean? I mean that's the difference of fake and real. I don't have time to be fake because it's too much work. I got shit I gotta do. I gotta be me. I gotta figure out my own shit. I don't have time to be with somebody, other bullshit. I have the new Mac Studio. It's fucking awesome. The high-end power one. It's the M3 Ultra. It's the giant Mac Mini box. I had the big tower. And now it's dual M3 chips. What do I have? 512 gigabytes of RAM. I have 90 terabytes of storage for video.
Physical?
Yeah. I have 21. I have these drives.
What in the world?
That's 20 terabytes, 40, 60. And 70, 80, 88, and 20, 90, 88, and just under 100 terabytes of storage.
That's
samples.
insane.
But no, when you do video, you need a lot of space.
Yes, you do.
And I've been doing music for 50 years. I want to pull something back from 20 years ago, look at it, and do a remix. It's there. And I have 2 servers in the house.
Backup. Yeah.
One for music and porn, and then one for backup. And those are both 40 terabytes each. So in my house, I probably have almost 200 terabytes of storage in the house.
That's amazing.
Under that, maybe 150, 170.
Put that in the trash. I'm almost ready for you.
Don't empty your. You have to empty your trash.
Yes,
empty your trash to clear the space on the drive.
Yes, sir. I just transferred it. Now I got to empty just right here. Empty and then
empty the trash so you clear out the disk space.
And emptying it. And now I'll let it keep emptying. Wait. Delete it.
If not, you turn it into an audio thing and you just flash pictures of me and my music and the albums and all that.
Record. Boom. Back in business. So we're gonna finish up now. And the first question, since we took a little breather there, the head digital archivist for the Library of Congress, like when they started the digital section of it, he came up, and sure you know this, with the 3-2-1 rule. 3 copies in 2 locations of every one file is like the standard they use over there, and it sounds like you've got your backups in place.
I have. I was just saying, I have almost 100 terabytes of storage. I have about 80 terabytes of backup, and I keep stuff in multiple places. And I have a bunch of hard drives sitting here and there. Western Digital Seagate, desktop drives that I drag stuff to. I had everything on one drive. It was a 20 terabyte drive, and when I switched from my old computer to my more recent computer, I just got a brand new one. There's a ceiling fan right above my head, and when I pulled it out, there was a wire, and I pulled the wire out and I put it above my head. I'm 6 feet tall. It hit the fan, went spinning around, crashed against the wall, hit the floor, and I thought, "Fuck!" I plug it in, click, 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 click. The drive's clicking. All right, don't write to it. Don't do anything. I called some of the companies. Can you restore it? All right, it's $100. Bring it. Man, your drive is so fucked up. You got to send it to where the FBI sends the drives. And I sent it to them, and they sent me back a whole bunch of files in ones and zeros with no headers, no containers. It could be a JPEG file. It could be an audio file. I have no fucking idea. And I thought after that, I'm always backing up. I have Dropbox. I have, Apple Cloud and all that shit. So I lost 10 years more, 20 years of work. It's all right. I'm moving on.
Speaking of, you mentioned before the printing press, Gutenberg. The first book ever printed on it was the Bible. I can't help but think the man named William Tyndale, the first person to translate the Bible into English, from the original language into, as they say, the profane. He was actually killed for the effort. Funnily enough, he
was in Sanskrit.
No, it was in Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, those three languages, and he translated it into English. And it's funny because while he was doing it, he had to coin a lot of new words just to include. This is ironic. He is the person that coined the word beautiful, and he was literally killed for inventing the word beautiful in a matter of speaking. No, but I mentioned that to say he was on the run doing this, fearing for his life, and at one point he lost all of his work. He translated the whole Old Testament and lost it, had to start over from nothing. And you've lost 10 years of work.
Yeah, but I didn't start from nothing. I had 10 years of experience.
There you go.
So I didn't recreate it. I had MP3 versions online, and there's technology today where I could bring that back and I could take a mix and separate it out into individual instruments now.
AI is amazing.
Off of a stereo image. Well, because it knows that a voice is between this frequency and that frequency. It makes vowels, so it's not it's so it could find those patterns in that frequency, separate it, and it knows that a voice has a certain timbre. It could put those harmonics back in and separate it. Even take I could de-reverb sounds. I could take drums, use drums, bass, piano, guitar, organ or keyboard, vocals, and I could take vocals off of a mix and now separate them between lead vocal and background vocal because it listens and knows that this person has been singing all along, and these other singers, because it recognizes what's singing, are only singing as backup or chorus, and it can separate them onto separate tracks now.
So for up to now, looking at a body of work from an artist, a lot of times you think of discography. But you just talked about 100 terabytes.
It is a discography, but it's a discography of work. I'm trying to preserve that. So one of the things some people are starting to do, which I find very, very interesting, I work in Apple Logic because that's what I grew up in. Some people work at Cubase as their palette. Apple Logic is a music sequencing recording program, and some people are now selling the raw tracks. So if you want to buy my last song, pay $20, $25, and you can get not only the individual tracks that I recorded, but the channels where what EQ did I use, what reverb did I use, how did I get that sound, and you can learn from that. I'm thinking about doing that, but that's a lot of work. I got a book to write. I just released my album of 90s house music, Welcome to My House, and I already have 5 tracks of my funk album, like 70s Sly and the Family Stone, hippie, groovy funk stuff that I'm sort of doing. And I mean, when am I going to have time to finish my book? When am I going to have time to do? I want to teach online. I mean, it's like, I'm fucking old. I gotta lay down.
Need an assistant? I'll be your assistant, or I'll help you find.
It's a lot of work, man. It's a fucking lot of work. I mean, in a few years, I'm gonna need to archive shit. I'm gonna need, like I said to my friend the other day, God forbid, what if I die? I want my music to go to, like Harvard. They have an archive. Or do my synthesizers go to the Brooklyn Museum and the Museum of Modern Art or the Smithsonian?
Well, let me say something to that. The second president of Princeton, Jonathan Edwards, the Encyclopedia Britannica calls him the greatest mind America ever produced. Most of his everything, writings, is housed at Princeton, where he's
I know that.
No. But the reason I mention that is he died in 1746, something like that. And that's 300 some years. To this day, his entire body has yet to be entirely digitally archived. Like I'm just saying, sometimes
mine is digital already.
Oh, there you go.
One EMF bomb and it wipes it all out.
You're right.
Perspective. It has to be transferred to CD, for archival things, because CD won't be wiped out.
Really?
With EMF. Oh,
really? I didn't know that.
A CD is physically burned it's 1 and a 0, and I forgot, like 1 is straight up and down and the 0 is at an angle, and it reads that and puts data back together. So in a CD, there's no magnetic in there. It's not glass, but it's plastic that's burnt. It's either this way or this way, and that's a 1 and a 0. When the laser gets it, it'll either vibrate like this or vibrate like this, and this is a 1 and this is a 0, and it can put that translate into data, which transfers it back into stuff.
You're brilliant.
Well, it's physics, so you have to. If you want to archive, you don't want to archive fully digitally. You have to put it on a medium. There's new stuff now that's holograph, which is just light bending in certain ways. Well, if the light bends this way, it's a 1, and if it bends this way, it's a 0. So all this recreates 1s and 0s, which you code it by sending you take your file and you send it in, and it's doing this to the laser or the light, and that's how it's stored. When you play it back, it's doing this, and it decodes it back into the file again. But it's physical media instead of what do you call it? Media instead of
digital.
Magnetic.
Yeah.
Magnetic. Shit, I come from records. That stuff was stored on waves on a record that would vibrate a needle that would then be amplified into sound. It made electricity. The needle moves like static electricity, and the electricity was a sound wave that was then amplified and put through an amp, and then turned into audio. And it was perfected for high frequencies and low frequencies.
We talked about
And in the early days, there were good and bad audio digital converters. That's why people like a lot of the old analog stuff, because the old analog stuff, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, early music like that had a sound to it because the resolution was so low. It was compressed and tight and boxy in your face. It's that 80s flat, boxy sound, doesn't have a lot of depth to it. A lot of people like it because it's like the difference between a Monet and a Picasso. It's a different style, and it sounds nice. That was physical media. Now that's changed to digital.
Right.
The space and the air between the sounds.
Right. Brilliant. Not just what you do, but what the negative space, what you don't do.
One of the funniest things in the Amadeus movie, Amadeus Mozart, he plays something, and the king goes, "How'd you like it?" Too many notes. But in the way the king was right, there was not enough. You didn't get to rest from the previous note to the new note, and you didn't get to hear the space in between.
Right.
Which is just as important. The silence is just as important as the sound.
Right.
Otherwise, it's static. Static is all frequencies all at once.
Now, is that something that you picked up over time, or you always kind of innately knew?
Well, some of it some of it is because I couldn't do massive productions because I was limited in the physical media I could record to. But then I began to realize, wait a minute, it's not just about when I had 32 or 48 or 100 tracks. Let's fill the tracks up, and everything was like, oh, whoa, well, yeah, what's going on here?
Right.
It's too much in my face at once. It's just too much.
I want to make you the mankind and, in fact, history's representative. You're to continue your pioneering path. Sports betting will one day end, or at least be drastically changed, once a disgruntled gambler takes out his rage against a famous athlete. It's the most easy thing to predict ever, that eventually their bet's not gonna go their way, and a famous athlete's gonna be, I hate to say it, assassinated. It's just very predictable.
That's not going to stop sports betting. Sports betting is a habit. That's why you have casinos. That's why you have stock market. It's all the same shit.
So here's the new question, and for you. Will gambling ever enter the music realm? Can you bet on a concert or a tour? I can imagine rivals betting.
They do all the time.
Okay.
Because when you sign a record artist, you're betting that the person's going to make you money, and you're putting money into their career and hoping they'll pay off and become a Beyonce or something like that and make big money. Unfortunately, what's happening with music publishing is these companies are buying publishing. They'll pay somebody $10, $20, $100,000. They'll get. It starts with a small company. You start a publishing company. You buy a publishing. You have 50 pieces of music. You sell it to a medium-sized company for $1 million. You paid me $10,000 and everybody else $10. You bet, and you sold it for $1 million. They take yours and 50 others, and then they send it to another company for $100 million, and they're betting. And then the 100 million, they have 20 million songs, and they're going to sell it to a BMG Music or to Sony Music Publishing for $16 million or $200 million. And that company now owns all the publishing, and they're betting that they will be the biggest in the world. And that goes to Wall Street. They're like junk bonds. They put them in a pretty little package and they sell them. Fucks over people like me because now my music is no longer important. It's just a commodity. But it is what it is. I'm not changing that. I do my own publishing.
Right. Well, as we're winding down, I want to be respectful of your time and thank you for your time. Just a few more questions. I'll do an outro, and it's Tempest Fugit. Time flies. Boy, did it. You know, it felt like no time went by talking to you.
How many inches can I take?
All of them.
So that's the answer. That's the answer. All of it.
Was there anything you could do easily in your youth that is not so easy to do in the present?
Yeah, walk up 5 flights of stairs. True. Fucking true. Man, I bought a house on 1 floor for that particular reason. I did not want to be 80 years old and trapped in my house. See, I don't think of me as me at 50 or 60 years old. I say, holy shit, I'm 50 or 60. I was 20. I got to fucking think of me as 80. And can I get up and down stairs? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I blah, 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 blah? And that's how I think about myself now. If I only have one chance to do something, am I doing it now or am I doing it later on? If it lasts 20 years, it better be accessible or easy to me to work or use at 20 years from now.
Right.
So you get older, your body slows down, but your mind stays the same. And when people die and get in trouble is when they lose that connection.
Right.
My other half was 65 years old, but thought he was 20 years old and kept partying, getting high and doing drugs and drinking and smoking and blah, all the things. It's like, slow down. Fuck you. I'm not slowing down. I'm not old. Fucking nature took him out. You're a waste of time here. You're fucking using up space and air that somebody else can. You're no longer efficient. See you later.
I'm very sorry.
It happens every day.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to him, chill the fuck out. I don't want to chill out. Retire. I'm not retiring. Your body's in trouble. Oh, who cares if I die? I die. Oh, yeah, you got your wish. You die. I'm not that cold. Trust me. It fucking hurts.
I know.
But you have to follow certain rules and regulations if you want to live here. You got to take care of yourself. And if, fuck it, I'm going to party, then hey, you have every right to party, but don't bitch and complain when you're in the hospital with a stroke.
Right.
You did this to yourself.
Right.
All my friends got cancer. Well, you were doing crystal meth until you're 55 years old. What the fuck do you expect? Your body blew up on you.
Right.
Well, that you partied from 20 to 50. Now all of a sudden you're 50 and you're wondering why you're drunk, your liver melted. It's not that I don't have compassion. I do. It's so sad. Are you that stupid?
My best friend's 90 years young, born 1934, and he partied until late years.
I heard that Tony Bennett was a junkie until his 70s.
He's spry, alive and well.
Well, at a certain point, I'm sure he had what you call your judgment day. You wake up one day and you realize this is fucked up. I got to change it. If you don't change it, you'll probably die. If you change it, you'll probably live. That basic and that simple.
Yeah, speaking of basic and simple, I boiled it down to 3 words, the key to living long: adapt to change.
Yeah, you have to adapt to change. That's why Bowie was famous and somebody I followed a lot and got to meet him in his house. Man. I was friends with his wife. I went to the circus. His manager was my manager. I got to hear Young Americans off the 24-track in Electric Lady Studios. Go look at my YouTube series and all that kind of stuff, because he was the first person that I know that taught change. Changes. You know what I mean? You had to change to stay alive. But he was also massively paranoid, massively neurotic, a massive coke freak. I mean, massive fucking coke freak. And it killed him. It gave him a heart attack and he died from cancer.
I believe that.
He cleaned himself up, but he did damage to his body that was irreparable. His coke binges. I'll tell you a story. His wife, Angie Bowie, who I was friends with, she said one day she was home with the kid and he was off somewhere around the world doing something. They don't hear from him a couple of days. Where are you, David? I'm in some house in Hollywood, and the woman is a witch and the husband's a warlock, and they want me to fuck her to have the baby, David's baby, the warlock, and they're drugging me, and I can't get out of here, and I don't know where I am. But that was a Bowie thing that was kept quiet, And she said, do you have clothes on? No. Can you put your shorts on? Yes. Do you know where the door is? No. Can you go out the window? Are you on the first floor? You have to climb out the window. Walk down the road, and it's like shorts and no feet. And get a cab, call a cab, and come home, and I'll pay for it on the other side. And Bowie wasn't freaking out and crying. He was depressed, but he was brilliant. He was a singer, and he knew how to work media, and he knew how to work his image. But he was fucking fragile, and part of his image was the thin white Duke is him saying, "I'm a coke addict. I'm thin, and coke and pale." The thin white Duke. I mean, he had these little personas. Ziggy Stardust came from outer space, came to Earth. I don't understand what's going on. It's all alien to me. You know what I mean? That was Ziggy Stardust. It was very interesting because if you look, when he died, he did that last album, Dark Star, because he was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
That takes a lot to fucking do.
Yeah. Brilliant album.
Yeah, but why did he die of cancer? Poor thing, we lost that genius.
Yeah,
he was a fucking party boy, and he didn't respect his body, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna party until I die. Oops, I'm dying. It's not that I don't have sympathy. I do. It to me, it's so sad that shit like that happens when we aren't taught that.
So I want to maybe ask. I want to talk to you till Kingdom Come, but I maybe one more question, then I'll do outro. I'd love to talk to you again, but up to you. But I'll just pick one random question because boy, do I want to talk to you so much. Okay, so here's out of the blue. Okay, here.
Which hangs lower, the left testicle or the right?
Or maybe it's you're like the rare is balanced.
Yeah, balanced. Yeah.
Well,
we have that balance in life.
Right. Well, speaking of actually the opposite. How would you conduct a worship service at a church on Sunday morning if you were asked to do so?
Talk about balance in life. Talk about life experience. Talk about Chicken Little, the sky was falling, so don't get all twisted and upset when you hear something. Breathe, unplug, listen to your heart, listen to your instinct more than anything else. And they'd probably throw me out. God isn't the answer. God is just a reference book. You're the answer. You have to figure it out.
So I'm going to do an outro, but prior to the outro, wisdom, plugs, and prayer. So if you could leave the folks at home with a piece of wisdom, if you have any plugs, like anything you or people you care about are working on, and then prayer, I'm
rapper DMX.
So the wisdom stuff is listen to old people because they've been around. They kind of know shit because they have life experience. If you don't know what it is, that's okay. Keep looking for it because eventually you'll find it. It may not be in front of your face right away, but it'll come there if you want it. Place an order with the universe and it'll show up on your doorstep. That's my wisdom thing. And if not, it's okay to ask for help. You're not stupid. You don't know everything, and neither do I, and nobody does. But eventually you could find close to the truth, maybe not the truth, or maybe you'll find the truth, but that's better than not knowing.
Right.
Plug is manparrish.com, manparrish.com. There's links to my music videos. I make them all myself because I can't afford music videos. My music is there. If you're on Spotify, if you're on iTunes or any of the Amazon Music, any of the digital outlet around the world, all my stuff is streaming around the world. Different types of music, and prayers are. I hope people. I'm not worried about the world. I'm not worried about politics. The world isn't going to end in 10 years, and pollution and global warming. I mean, they found ferns and fossils as high up as Montreal. So I'm not a climate denier. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I just hope that we will balance out more as a society. So I pray that people don't suffer, that animals don't suffer, that there isn't mental illness. That's my prayers. But I also know that if you seek it, whether it's knowledge or peace or war or drugs or sex or anger, you will find it. So just be careful what you ask for, because you will get it.
Seek and you will find, knocking will be.
Seek and you will find, but not in God sitting on a cloud when angels playing a harp. It's just the way the shit is, dude. That's the way it is.
Right.
And it's living 67 years, I could say that's the way the shit is.
Right.
Now, most people probably believe in karma, but they're not sure and they don't want to admit it. But deep down inside, you know, you do something fucked up, it's going to come back to you. And if you've heard that, that's karma. That's all.
Right.
Well, I don't believe in karma, but I know if I do something bad, it's going to come back to me. That's karma. That's all that it is. You do something shitty, it's going to come back to you shitty. Look at your friends that steal, that do drugs, that are party boys or girls, that get into fights, do coke. Their lives are living in ghettos, and they're fucking nothing wrong with the ghetto, but they're living in squalor, and their money falls apart, their jobs fall apart, and all that kind of shit. And the ones that clean themselves up or don't follow that tend to have more stable lives.
Right.
Karma. That's what I call karma.
Right.
If you can't see that, then you better start seeing it, because you're not, you're going to have a really rough life.
If you don't see it, it certainly already sees you.
You got to believe in your instincts. You have a lot of instincts, and if something says, that's wrong, probably believe in it. I would say probably trust what your insides say before somebody else says.
Amen. I agree. Now I'm going to do an outro, and maybe I'll say a joke at the end. So here's my outro, and thank you so much. All the superlatives applied to you, and then some. I am proud of what you've done and humbled to have heard it directly from you today.
No pressure.
You're no first cousin to a raspberry. You were delightful company for this interview.
Thank you.
No matter what it costs, you can do what is right. People can turn against you for what you used to be, but they will never have the chance to hate you for the good man you become.
And even if they do, it's their problem, not mine. Fuck them if they don't pay my rent. I am who I am. I do what I do. You either like it or you don't like it. I don't want anybody to like me. If I can provide some wisdom for somebody who's on their own journey and help them move up that ladder half a rung, I've done my job. If I push them up 30 rungs, God bless both of us.
Mr. Man Parrish, thank you very, 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 very much.
Absolutely. What we've done 3.5 hours.
Good. I hope this is the first of more to come. Thank you. And I will text you that short video and all the I can just keep saying thank you till I die. So just thank you.
No. You gotta do your own shit now.
You can do it, and make it look good.
I'm very grateful. You're just
absolutely.
Yes,
it's great. I'm glad you contacted me, and I
yes,
had a great time.
Yes, sir. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.